The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? It is Thursday, February 29th, 2017, and this is the Benjamin Dixon Show, and I am not Ben Dixon. Or am I?
This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, and I am Benjamin Dixon.
If I had deltoids like that, I would love for you to be Ben Dixon.
Deltoids? That's what you think of when that's the muscle you think of when you're like, that's the real glamour muscle, deltoids.
Well, when I think of you, yeah, when I met you in person, I'm like, oh, he has nice deltoids.
I have nice everything towards.
No, I'm sorry. I got distracted by wokethegator.tumblr.com. It is like the tagline says, if you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out. Woke the Gator, woke-the-gator.tumblr.com. It says some people are too woke for their own good. When that happens, they woke the Gator. And it has the Amanda Marcotte tweet. If you voted for Jill Stein, it's probably because you're a sexist who thinks all women are as dumb as she is. Just even though that's an absolute idiotic tweet, she did actually quote a tweet from Jill Stein or link to a tweet from Jill Stein that was actually also stupid. But
was that the tweet where she
was blaming Democrats for a vote that none of them voted for? Yes. Yeah. So that's an example of either she tweeting or whoever's running her social media not verifying and just having maybe like some standard. You know what I'm saying? Not because the Democrats have been messing up. It's not that they're beyond, a reproach, but at least if you're going to ding them for a vote on something, at least get it right. How are you trying to be leader of the free world, quote unquote, and you can't even do that much? I'm just saying.
Here's the thing.
But Amanda's tweet is absolutely trash, though.
Here's the thing, though. If I've learned one thing about Twitter, is that all Twitter is good at is showing you how dumb people you used to look up to actually are.
Absolutely. And the day I make people feel that will be a day when I probably have a blue check and like 30,000 followers, right? I know. I keep expectations of myself very low. I have my very low. But I will say this: Twitter could have a great what do we call it? Improvement in the quality of their tweets if they would just before you were allowed to tweet anything, it would say, okay, read it out loud. And they'll verify with voice software. And after you read it out loud, you were allowed to tweet it. Then Twitter tweets would be much more better.
Why reading out loud? Because if it's stupid when you wrote it, it's still going to be stupid when you said it.
Because some things won't sound great. Some things sound great in your head. When you hear it out loud,
these are things that probably sounded great in people's heads and was really stupid. So Chelsea Handler, the comedian, she decides to pose for a picture in front of the White House after a shopping spree. She took her gay friend and her Muslim friend. How stereotypically white woman of you to go with your gay friend and your Muslim friend, right? They don't even have their own names. They go to Nordstrom's and they're posing in front of the White House like resistance, Nordstrom's, ooh. I'm just trying to work overtime to get new tires for my car. And then there's another one, Jacobin during the Super Bowl or right after the Super Bowl. Tom Brady is a worker. We must socialize the NFL to raise his class consciousness. Lady Gaga is also a worker. The hell are you talking about? Super fan. Like when they're trying to when keeping it woke goes wrong, right? Ooh, Brandon, show title. Brandon and I are looking for a show title for our duo. So you guys send us good suggestions. And I got one more. I'm gonna do one more, and then we can get into the getting. I like the laughing. I like the humor stuff. Go ahead.
It's just hard watching people with a lot of money try to empathize with the rest of us. because it's just like
this Nordstrom thing is hilarious.
People trying to convince us that no, Tom Brady and Lady Gaga, they are subject to the exact same structural and systemic pressures we all are. No, they aren't. Right. They really are not.
This is an election that supposedly people's economic anxiety chose them to choose Orange Hitler. And we got people posting about freaking Nordstrom's right now as an act of resistance. You guys got to be flipping kidding me.
You can't judge people. You can't rank people's resistance.
You can't rent resistance. You also can't charge it at an overpriced boutique store either. There's another tweet.
Some people resist with TJ Maxx. Some people resist with Nordstrom's. It happens.
I resist when I walk in Nordstrom and look at those damn prices and walk right out. That's how I resist.
I mean, like, at least, can we give some folks, like some regular middle class folks over at Nordstrom Rack? Like, I mean, so then there's the last one I saw on this website. Jen Kirkman has, in the ultimate act of revenge, Hillary should develop a line of pantsuits for Nordstrom's.
What the what? Huh?
Facepalm is the caption.
And they're
like, one, pantsuits are tacky. Pantsuits are tacky.
Hillary's pantsuits are even tackier.
Hillary's pantsuits are tackier.
First, no, listen, I'm going to tell you, I was going to vote for Hillary up until I found out she was repping Def Jam. Then I was just like, nah.
Def Jam or Death Row Records?
Death Row, I'm sorry, Death Row.
Death
Row, I'm sorry, I forgot. I got them wrong.
Jokes right, man. Come on.
They can't all be winners.
Really good.
I'm usually really good. But anyway, replace Death Jam with Death Row and then insert a Biggie joke. And
but this is the thing. People are talking. Oh, no. Here's the one. Okay, I got one more. This is a hashtag. She persisted. Hashtag grab your wallet, ladies. Trump is attacking Nordstrom for dumping Ivanka. It's time to reward them with sales. This works both ways. She persisted. How about you go donate that money to, like, I don't know, a Fight for 15 action or something working around homelessness, working with homeless trans youth. I mean, I don't know. Pick something that you people actually claim you care about and donate the money instead of going and shopping at Nordstrom's.
Civility. What's with these faux values of liberals? Persistence, civility, like all these things. Like, persistence is not good if you're doing the wrong thing. Like that's consistency is not great if you're consistently missing. No, I'm just saying, like the liberals, like they raise up these faux virtues. Like, oh, she's persistent. It's like that's not a good. That depends.
We're giving them hell, right? We're giving them hell. I mean, but me personally, I don't mind that. I mean, they have to protest from the way they understand the world, and that's part of the problem is that their whole understanding of the world is disconnected from the real world. But whatever. It's in resistance to Trump, who is he has lost his mind, and he's lost a lot of battles today. Today was a great day. Today
was a great day for the Rebel Alliance. Oh, look, yeah. I have on my. Oh, you can't see it. I have on my my Death Star shirt. We blew it up. Today. They're just going to build another one tomorrow, but we're just going to build another one tomorrow.
Should we get into the news then? Let's get into the topic.
We can't actually get into. And you guys, so I just jumped into like the really funny, non-important stuff. Well, it's kind of important, but we're actually celebrating 2 years of the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Whoop whoop.
Yay. Ben is, and the only reason why not the only reason, but the major reason why we're filming it right now is because Ben actually got caught in that snowstorm, in the Northeast. So he wasn't able to make it all the way in. But he's here and we're here and you're here. So yay. But you guys can call in because we definitely want to hear from you about what's been going on. What are some of your favorite Benjamin Dixon Show moments? What are your maybe so you can call using my number 678-810-0089. David is going to patch you through. So we're here. So come on in and talk to us. I know like Brandon does a really good job of making sure he's interacting in the chat as well. Just let us know what's going on with you guys and what are your favorite moments? What are your hopes and dreams? What are you thinking about going forward? I just had my inhaler, so I'm like feeling really good right now because my chest was like, I just got a burst of energy. So I'm like super, like hyper and perky. But news today.
And when these folks need a drink of water or something like that, we have a couple of memorable clips we might go to of Ben. And save them for the end of the stream and play them when everyone wants to go to bed.
Okay, so yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't know you were on there. Because sometimes because that's the voice of all powerful us. So sometimes David just talks to us, and sometimes he talks to you as well. He's like magic like that, like Puff the Magic Dragon. Okay, we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, comment, and where you're calling from?
Hey, it's Nick from Oregon.
Hey, Nick.
How you doing? Hey, so I was just calling in. 2-year anniversary. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop,
Hey,
whoop.
so I'm calling because I've been thinking about this for a while, but Ben just mentioned it the other day that it's the anniversary, and I was remembering back to the first episode that I saw when Ta-Nehisi Coates put out the article about Bernie and reparations, and I was like, man, I can't sit with this argument. I don't feel like it's correct. And then I was looking up stuff, and I just ran across Ben's video that he had just put out, and I was like, yes, that is exactly what I was just saying. Like, why doesn't it apply to everyone else? Why doesn't, this argument is so nearsighted to me. But I mean, that's just, obviously the intro of seeing him and seeing all you guys. In fact, I think right after that episode, I saw Noah, and I was like, man, I see Ben, who is awesome and just goes off. And then I see a Noah who just every time just brings it to, I would say bring it to the yard, but that's not necessarily appropriate. But, you just brought it every time. And I was like, God, these guys are just so, they speak truth to power all the time. And it's just, thank you guys. I mean, hey, there's a reason I'm a patron of both you guys, because you guys are awesome. So thank you for doing all you do.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you guys. And yeah, thank you. Like Ben, so shout out to Ben, right? Yay, Benjamin Dixon, because Ben built this. We built this city. I'm sure I've done that before, but Ben built this for, like a year by himself, and you all rode with him. There's so many of you I've seen mentioning like, yeah, I remember your first, I remember being there from like almost the very beginning, patrons, you guys really helped him build this out to the point that he was able to have an infrastructure in place to bring more of us on, right? And he was able to do those awesome panels. Like, I really enjoyed those panels. We kind of talked about this a little bit at New Year's, but I really enjoyed the panels we used to do during the primary. When we were doing the primary coverage and stuff, like that was really like the round robins that we would do. Those were really awesome. Was when I first got involved, like last year. But Ben built out, the Benjamin Dixon Show. So we basically, we got our own little network, right? With all of our shows. And then we also have the Progressive Army blog, which now is like fully functional with an editorial board, and like it's awesome. So thank you so much for your support, Nick, and for other people out there who have been patrons of the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'll let Ben get in there because I'm doing it.
Yeah. Oh no, you were doing me a favor. I had to switch and get a better microphone. I think my audio was kind of crappy. Yeah, okay. I had to take one for the team. And, but no, it's 2 years, and one of the best things about the last 2 years has been just drawing some of the best talent that I've ever come across. I think Noah, were you my first draft pick? I'm trying to think who was I think David was the very first draft pick. He just came and said he wanted to work and volunteer, and then Anoa showed up, and then Nick, and then Brandon. It's just like so many talented people came around. And just for me personally, just so one real quick personal moment, like I've worked on a whole lot of things. I'm kind of an old man. I'll be 40 in not too long, a couple of years. And I've worked on a lot of projects, and a lot of projects have failed. But this has been one project that's unbelievable in the sense that all I had to do was build it, and the most talented people that I've ever worked with have come. So if you build it, they will come, that kind of thing. So big shout out to all the patrons who've been with me from day one. To all the listeners who remember the orange room in the background, and we're just getting started, right? We're not even doing half of what we're going to be doing in about 2 or 3 months. So stay tuned in. If you like us now, you're going to love us later, and if you hate us now, you might kill yourself later. But either way it goes. Thanks a lot.
Just don't haunt us. I'm not down with that.
Well, it was not literally. I hope they don't get ticket. I hope they don't jump off a bridge or anything. But it is what it is.
So like Ben said, I think that there was a lot that actually happened today. It's a mixed news day, right? Because we had Trump's crazy executive orders. Did we talk about that? Ben, you might have talked about this on the show already this week, but apparently the gang problem in Chicago is because of illegal people who are here illegally.
I did not know that.
There was a piece, and this goes into his executive order for today. That he signed today, empowering cops and whatever other nonsense he's talking about. But one of the things that was in the article earlier this week was Trump made the accusation basically that part of the crime problem, part of the gang problem in Chicago is due to people who are here illegally. That's a fascinating
spin
take. Yeah. And he's definitely watching some of these crime shows that have those Central American gangs. Not saying there isn't a presence here in the United States. I'm not very well versed in, major crimes unit type stuff. But, we've seen random stories over the years that do indicate that, was it MB6 and maybe 6? They have a lot of those gangs sometimes in like Law and Order, right? B26 or I don't know. But
the B26 is our band, I think.
B613.
B613.
No, that's from Scandal.
No, that's from Scandal. See, we're all over the place. See, we're messing up our gangs and stuff just like Trump. But we're not writing executive orders based on misinformation.
I will say, I wonder how much this is going. So this is one of the effects of Trump, right? That Trump does something incredibly crazy, like implying there's some sort of cartel presence in Chicago, and that's why Chicago is the way it is in terms of gang violence.
There is a cartel in Chicago. It's called the Chicago Police Department.
Oh yeah, and they have black sites and they have illegal. They black bad people and extradite them to black sites. But my point was this: I wonder how this is going to be used by the liberal media, and I hate to do this, to absolve Rahm Emanuel of all of his awfulness. Because that's what
right. Go ahead. It's already started.
And that's what happens, right? Like once Trump does something, whoever's on the opposing side of Trump suddenly gets a get out of jail free card for everything they've done up until this point. And Rahm Emanuel asked the mayor of Chicago did more to exacerbate the crime and violence and poverty problem in Chicago than obviously Trump has done the past 2 weeks, 2.5. How long has it been since he's president? It seems like forever.
It feels like 2 years.
It's almost a month. We're almost at a month. It's been about 3 weeks.
It feels like he's violating term limits. I swear to God, it does. But and so we see this everywhere, right? Trump does something bad, and whoever is on the opposite side gets absolved of what they've done. And Rahm Emanuel is definitely one of those problematic liberals, maybe one of the most problematic liberals. That,
with one exception, though, Brandon, I'll give you this one exception. Chicago is not going to forget Rahm Emanuel. No matter how much Donald Trump says something ignorant, the boots on the ground in Chicago, Jamal Green and his crew, they know who the problem is.
Ready for him. The Asada's daughter, like everyone who mobilized that by Anita, that mobilization, like that really invigorated. Shout out to BYP 100 out in Chicago. There are a lot of groups that coalesced and came together that really, folks, Ben's right. Like who comes after is going to be an interesting conversation. Yeah, but I see what you're saying though, Brandon, about how like we especially with Democrats, right? And we already see this. Democrats have turned a blind eye to his evil, so to speak. We saw this with the way no one really flinched when Hillary Clinton didn't distance herself from him. Really, we saw that. We just saw that he was on a panel at the Brock retreat, right? With the Democratic National Committee chair candidates. He was on a freaking panel about how to defeat Trump at this insider only, event. So this is another example of how the DNC is out of touch with actual people.
Yeah, and that was my other point, right? So of course, Ben is 100% right. The people who live in Chicago and in adjacent suburbs of Chicago are never going to forget the schools Rahm Emanuel closed, the money he funneled to the privatization efforts, the way the crime rate exploded under him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the macro level, at the liberal, he'll be on MSNBC. Like he'll find himself simply by nature of being on the opposite side of Trump, as now he's in the resistance. Like he's a warrior against Trump. Like we can now justify giving him a cushy position in the DNC because he is he's been tempered by the fire of the Trump-pocalypse, for lack of a better word. And so. But we see it all over, like this discrepancy between the local level, what's going on with these local Democrats, and the people who have to deal with these local Democrats, whether they be Manchin in West Virginia or Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, and what people are advocating at the in the media for them, like what their solution to them is.
So anyway, so we have today's executive order, which, just earlier this week, everyone's like, oh, Trump's going to do something for Black people, or what if Trump turns out to be good for Black people? Trump is doing something for Black people. We have yet to see any of this HBCU stuff come to fruition that was promised, right? But we most definitely see we saw a crime reduction, and for everyone who was all, oh my God, the 94 crime bill, oh my God, this, like, are you paying attention to the return to the law and order like type of governance? That's it's already been happening in so many different ways, but we juxtapose his increase on focusing on quote unquote crime reduction, as well as the deportations that have been ramped up. And I was just saying to the guys before we came on, I really do want to start engaging some folks who work in this area of working with folks who are asylum seekers, undocumented immigrants, etc., to get a good sense of what we're looking at now, versus what has been happening and what's going on with the work, because that's something, and I know you've said this before, Brandon, so that's something that's a conversation we actually really do need to be having, in addition to how do we continue to work with families that are being ripped apart and things like that. Go ahead.
And that's what I was going to say, right? So that's what I was going to say, right? Okay. Yeah, what's the call for that? We have a caller, but I'm going to just say this first and take the caller. That's the important thing, right? We forget that the police union and also the Border Patrol union, they were some of Trump's biggest supporters in his primary, and they weren't radicalized by Trump. They had already existed in this way, and they just saw Trump's positions aligned with their own. And so this is not with it re-engaging with the war on crime or the war on poor communities. This is just now the police have a president. The police and the problematic police forces have a president who are more aligned and more vocal with what they have already believed, and that has been brewing in our police departments for the past 3 decades, since we started the war on crime, since we started this war not on crime, quote unquote, but this war on criminals. And by criminals, I mean poor communities. Because let's be, that's what happened. We turned the war on poverty to the war on the poor, and we used that to militarize our police force, and we radicalized our police force, and they found their champion in Donald Trump. And he didn't create him, but he sure is. I mean, they sure are his biggest fan.
So the executive orders that were signed today, this is a part of his embracing his new bro, Jeff Sessions. Yay, Jeff Sessions. Woo woo. AG. Not really. Just joking.
We have a caller.
That's right. We have a caller. I'm so sorry, caller. Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from? And what is your comment or question?
Yeah, it's me, Scotty. Columbus, Ohio. Hello? Nothing much. I watched a Young Turks video about Jamu Green, the former Fox News contributor, the one who, when they asked about whether or not the primary was rigged, she said that it was a gotcha question.
Yeah.
She also was in another debate, and she said that part of the reason we lost was because we didn't know how to deal with intersectionality. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, like these people, they're dangerous. I've said this over and over again, but one thing that really struck me about the whole primary, the Democratic primary, was how social and racial justice was, in a sense, being separated from economic justice by, like, the Hillary people and people like Jim Green and Charles Blow. And what they were doing, they were undercutting that whole entire message, saying because Bernie seemed tone deaf when he was talking about race or whatever. And this is where I kind of felt a little bit suspicious of what the Black Lives Matter protests. Like, I know the first one was Black Lives Matter at the Netherlands Nation. The second one was the agitators on in Seattle. So I was kind of like, okay, something just doesn't smell right with the whole thing of how these people are talking about. Like, they sound so woke when it comes to social justice, they have nothing really to say about economic justice. And they're like, it's like a reverse Southern strategy. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I picked up on it was a little hard to hear them, but I heard about their excuse and the way they felt like last night they were saying that the reason we lost was because we weren't intersectional enough, and that we need to focus on identity politics even more, despite it blowing up in the face of in our faces in the general election. So you have people who are true believers of this type of politics. And go ahead.
No, finish up, please. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say the true believers, and don't get me wrong. I think everybody in this room, in on the show tonight, we all understand the necessity and the value of identity politics and intersectionality. But it's when you go for intersectionality and identity politics only, and without any regard to any other intersection besides your race or your gender or your sexual orientation, that's when you have you're not truly intersectional. And you leave out a lot of Americans, and the technique that they use of silencing other people based on this type of politics blew up in their face, and they can't let it go. And it just shows you that, as much as we have to focus on Trump, we still have to do both. And we got to work internally to either get rid of the people or help reform. Some of these people need some what is it called when they send you to jail and rehabilitation. Some of these Democratic leaders need rehabilitation, or we just need to purge them out of the get them out of the way, because they genuinely either believe this or they're just going for one last hoorah to see if how far they can get with this type of politics. Go ahead, Brandon.
So I don't know. I don't know if they're true believers, and it's something that we hear all the time from people on the left, whether they be far left or moderate left or whatever, that the Democrats need to perform this autopsy. They have to look into why they lost in 2016, and they have to, hold the people who were responsible, accountable. And they're the frustration by people who are seeing them not doing this, and they're wondering how they could be so stupid or so inept that they're just going to keep pounding this shallow identity politics, pounding this McLiberalism, pounding this McFeminism, pounding this McAnti-racist. There must be a better word for that, but whatever. And I don't think they're stupid, right? I just think that they recognize the problem. They see what it would take to solve it, and it's simply not something they're willing to do. And so these retreats with Brock, with Rahm Emanuel, this money to third way, because heck, come on guys, with $20, like a six pack, we could lay out in one page why Hillary Clinton lost, and it would only need to be one page and bullet notes. It could black done. But the answer is not hard. It's just untenable to Democrats, to liberals. It's untenable to the Democratic establishment. And because the problem is them. They're the ones who are getting in their own way. And it becomes a question of, well, how do you explain to a dinosaur that it's extinct? Like, how do you get someone to voluntarily cede power? And the answer is you can't. And that's why people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi have to go, because they 100% understand the problem. And I would say, heck, trying to convince people that you don't understand the problem is a good way to extend your shelf life. Because hey, don't worry, I might get it one day. I might get it one day, guys. On the other hand, I see your point, Ben. And here's what I would say to you, that point. We have to understand that their version of intersectionality comes from the bubble that they live within. And the Democratic Party, I would say better than Republicans, are able to live with this illusion of diversity, this illusion that they're having a diverse conversation and engaging with a myriad of interests and points of view, simply by nature that they have more Black people, they elevate more women, they elevate more LGBTQ people, they elevate more brown people, et cetera, more Muslims. But what they don't ever do is recognize that no matter what color the person they're elevating is, no matter what their orientation or their gender, they're all always rich or well-to-do or elitist. And so they have this ascriptive conversation, ascriptive in the sense that they all belong to a very horizontal slice of society, and that's the class slice. They're all very rich. And so they sit there and they try to figure out what oppression looks like. They have these conversations about what oppression looks like, but these conversations are incredibly vapid because what never gets said, and this is not only the Democratic Party, but this is between Democrats and Republicans, what never gets said between them is, well, hey, what about people who don't have as much money as us? Because, you know, one of the key barriers to intersectionality. I know I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'll let you guys go in a second. One of the key barriers.
You sound so smart.
You do sound
You're so smart, though.
But one of the key barriers to intersectionality is something called standpoint theory, and what that basically means is that you can't ask someone who's in second place what the problem with society is, because they will be able to identify all the reasons why they're not in first place. But with the whole way we do meritocracy is that they won't be able to see that them being in second place and not being in first is just as specious as someone being in third and not being in second. And so it comes down to Democrats who are, you know, black or female or LGBTQ are very good at recognizing why they can't be number one, but they aren't good at recognizing why the poor people can't be number two.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the problem we have.
And Brandon, whatever, man, whatever, Brandon, I'm gonna cut you off.
Nerd.
I'm reading in the chat room.
We have calls.
We'll get the call. I got to read this one comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Slayer. It said, Brandon, please check your vocab, you young, handsome asshole.
What did I say?
No. That was like you're so effing smart, man. You're smart and sexy, man.
I thought I got LGBTQ wrong. I didn't add the A and the I and like.
Yeah, you missed the IA. I was honestly going to tell you missed IA. Right,
so I got my mic on, and we are getting all the calls through, everyone. We can only take one at a time, unfortunately. But we do have one caller on the line. Caller, what is your name, comment, and or question?
Is this me?
This is you.
My name is Rory from Washington. I was watching your segment on whether or not to punch a Nazi. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but some of these guys who are acting like morally superior to leftists over this are so hypocritical. Like, if you support right-wing extremism or Nazism or white nationalism or police brutality or any of these things, you don't get to turn around and pretend to be a pacifist. And it's crazy how some of these guys on the right, they support like the most brutal, barbarous policies imaginable. But then it's like they use the shallow concept of civility to beat us over the head with, you know? And, you know, the most disheartening thing about it, I think, is like a lot of people on the left seem to be falling for this too. Like, I've seen a lot of people
David, you have to give a
who are
summary.
supposedly on the left. Am I going on too long? Okay, I've seen a lot of people who are supposedly on the left who have gotten down harder on protests and stuff than what Trump is actually doing. And it's like, yeah, it would be nice if there was no unnecessarily violence at these protests. But like, that's not going to happen, you know. And if we get hung up on every little instance of violence or rioting at every protest, we would never get anything done. Like, if we all had that attitude, white people would still be peasants and serfs under the rule of King George the 500th. And, you know, I feel bad for whoever's property got destroyed or whatever. But you know what? If all our collateral damage is a few broken windows and a few things on fire and some scumbag being punched in the face, we already have a better track record than Trump, who's already managed to kill an 8-year-old girl. So all this moral indignation toward the left is so like garbage and hypocritical. That's all I want to say.
All right, David, give a quick summary of what she said.
So basically, he was talking about the indignation on the of the left, and Spencer getting punched. And he was commenting on our commentary recently about, you know, all the hoopla about whether or not you should celebrate people Nazis getting punched, and and that it's very hypocritical, you know, when we see everything that's going on both sides. So maybe you guys can give some feedback, and we're getting another call. So we're probably gonna have to put the news off until Monday.
I'm not sure about this both sides thing, but the more and more I spend time in the South and I listen to just stories of people and empowerment stuff, I'm all for Nazis getting, punched in the throat or whatever. Like, I'm sorry, I don't understand why people who have existed with unfettered access to power in this society for generations, for hundreds of years, right, at this point, preach to others that violence is wrong when violence is inflicted on us in our communities on a regular basis. So what, he got punched in the face? Like in the grand scheme of things, like, BFD, right? I mean, I think this obsession on the left to discuss this, and this is wrong, and we need to be doing things the right way and setting the right example. Are you people paying attention? And so this is the thing, though, and this is not directed to caller, because I absolutely appreciate everyone who calls into the show, tweets us, unless you're harassing, and I have to block you and report you to Twitter. But otherwise, I appreciate everyone that communicates and engages, whether you agree with us or not, right? Because you're engaging, you're thinking, you're really trying to make things better. But this is like a waste of damn time worrying about whether Black Bloc or Antifa, folks are right for punching Spencer, right, or are they right for protesting? Like this whole conversation, well, people have the right, people deserve. You don't deserve the right. You don't deserve the protection to preach hate about other people. What the hell's wrong with you? They need to get punched in their damn mouths. Maybe they will stop saying stupid stuff. Okay. The first time, I'm gonna say this, and we can get to the next caller. The first time I voted here in Georgia, I voted at a historic Black church, right, founded after the end of the Civil War. That was like chilling for me, for someone who didn't even grow up down here. I voted with my father at a historic, but my dad looked at me. I said, Dad, I said, you see the placard when we walked up? He was like, yeah, it's pretty wild. I said, I feel like the ancestors are talking to me. And so often, I really feel like these days, particularly doing the work that we're doing with what's going on right now, I feel Ida B. Wells talking to me. Ida B. Wells rode around not just doing her own activism organizing, but she also was educating about anti-lynching. It was very vocal and active against the violence against Black people in particular. So I don't really want to hear from anybody. And again, let's be clear. Hi, Lee. No, I don't believe that violence is a good thing. I'm not pro-violence, but you best believe, there's a term called fighting words, and you come with some N-words and genocide, and your babies need to die, you gonna catch these hands. You're just gonna catch Mama Bear hands, and that's just what it's gonna be.
Wait. Let me testify to something.
You go first, okay?
Yeah, because
Ben is actually from the South.
I'm gonna testify about how I know you would throw some hands. Because remember, we were in DC and you and I got into it on the show, but I wasn't going back down. But I'm like, this chick will swing on me if I
would never.
She would.
I would never.
Straight up. Listen,
I used to carry a box cutter back in the day.
I'm not scared of a lot of stuff. I'm not scared of much of anything. Only thing I'm scared of is flying. But Anoa raised up on me so hard that day, I was like, holy shit, I might have to swing on her because well, so to all the Nazis out there, y'all think somebody just talking? Anoa will do it. Y'all better watch yourself.
Well, here's the thing. Part of the liberal hobgoblin is civility, right? The liberals love to be civil, and the right takes advantage of that. The right takes advantage of liberals' desire to have civil discourse. And it's funny because back in the 80s and 90s, before I was born or before I was old enough to read, the right was criticizing, this the postmodern era, the post-factual era. People just want to, these liberals at college just want to discuss, radical moral relativism. It's what's more morally relativist than allowing a Nazi to preach Nazism in 2017? But the right has been the biggest beneficiary of this moral relativism and this notion of radical multivocality than anybody. And they want you to debate Nazis, and part of it is because whatever the Nazis preaching doesn't really affect them in any real way, either because their wealth insulates them from, I guess, genocide, or because we
have so many other things to be worrying about, whether or not agonizing over what's going on both sides. Look, punch a damn Nazi in the mouth. You run the risk of getting an assault charge. Let's just be clear. I will punch a Nazi in the mouth if
I will say this though.
I'm gonna be real.
I would rather be confused.
That should be a video game.
I would rather. It is. It's like.
Is it punch a Nazi?
No, and that's what I'm saying. I blame
Glorious Bastards. We're gonna go kill some Nazis.
Wolfenstein 3D. Y'all too young for that.
I blame I blame the rise in Nazi sympathizers on the lack of punching Nazi games in the past 10 years. It used to be when I was young, you couldn't get through a 6-month cycle without a World War II shooting game. Nazis were the you could attack.
You know what? We're gonna start. We're gonna start pretending to be Uber. We're gonna pretend to be Uber. We're gonna pick Nazis up, and we can just drop them off in the middle of the hood. That's what
There you go.
I will say this:
you have to do nothing.
I would rather be considered pro-violence than be considered a Nazi sympathizer. So whatever.
So there's shades in between, right? There's a lot of shades in between what you see, but I know you're just doing that to be hyperbolic. But I mean,
absolutely, I don't believe in
it. But in terms of actually expending energy, concerned over whether or not making it an actual debate, it's not even worth the debate. Somebody got punched. People get punched every day. I mean, I like watching fight videos just like the next person. So if it happens to be a Nazi getting punched, that's all the better. Then we just move on and go on about our business.
Yeah. Ben seems to like
having been on the corner
but
when the punching question happened, having been standing right there when the punching question happened, it was a glorious moment for the Rebel Alliance.
So
all this other hand wringing.
Here's the only question. Is this something that we use as a political tactic? No, not right now. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to be a political tool right now. But to this idea that you can have a political revolution and never have violence, I think that's as naive as anything else I've ever heard.
People who are upset about the possibility of violence concern me, because seriously, we do have a caller, and caller, we will get to you just 1 second. Love you guys so much for calling in and stuff too. But no, seriously,
hang up on the caller so we can talk. I'm joking.
People who balk at the idea of violence, and I used to be one of them until I lived in West Virginia and I shot a gun for the first time. Right, like I was very anti-gun, very anti a lot of stuff. And I understand from a humanist perspective why that is, but we got to look at the reality of the world. And if shit goes down, I need people who are going to have my back. I don't need people who are going to have me out there getting my ass kicked and y'all standing around hypothesizing over whether or not. Because seriously, look at history. Like white people, I'm sorry, they need to be checked. Nazis, I'm take that back because I don't mean to generalize. But when you look at our history, when you look at race riots, when you look at shit like Black Wall Street, when you look at race riots that broke out pretty much every city in America between the early 1900s on forward, these are massive hordes of people who went unchecked and were never, ever, ever corrected in their violence, right? And I'm sorry, I'm not really interested. The KKK wants to start openly, recruiting. The KKK tried to rebrand itself as being pro-white and not being racist or anything, but now they full-fledged back to being racist and trying to openly recruit in Ohio. No.
I mean, let's be very clear. This notion,
Nazis in the mouth.
This reification of the passive Negro and the passive oppressed.
Wait, Brandon. What I know a lot of vocab. I got a huge vocabulary. What the hell is reification?
The desire to. Oh, sorry, I can't even think of the word. What it means now. Okay. This desire of liberals to make the notion of passively getting your ass kicked by the police or by agents of the state or by alt-right Nazis as some sort of taking the moral high ground, some symbolic victory that you didn't hit back. I don't understand it, especially from people who aren't getting out there themselves. It's like you have these sideline critics going, "Oh, I don't understand when those police were beating you, why you would fight back, Black Bloc." It's like,
I'm gonna be honest with you. To add just to what you're saying, Brand, I don't mean to cut you off, but you know what? As much as I have ranted against the Black Bloc and against Antifa because they take the attention away from the protests that are the organized protests, right? That are the movement that's out there to accomplish something specific. Whenever the Black Bloc shows up, it's usually something's burning down. And so it frustrates me to no end. But the flip side of that is they're willing to do things that 99.9% of liberals are not going to do. They will have a confrontation, a physical confrontation, with someone who is speaking the violence against us, not just speaking, but would actively use violence against us. So if nobody else is going to do it, we can't just write them off, because there is active violence being perpetrated against minorities, people of color, the LGBTQ community. I mean, marginalized groups in general. There's a violence that's taking place against it. And for them, it's a game. It's fun and games. Yeah, but we want to worry about
not only that, but let's not pretend like a peaceful protest would actually get the attention of the people that or rather the sanction of the state. Because like I said before, respectability politics as it comes to protesting or any political action is never really about the actual tactics, and it's always about what the cause of that protest is. Because a respectful protest is a protest that barely addresses the status quo.
It don't matter. Respectability don't matter. We got pictures of peaceful protesters being maced. I know you're not making that point, but I'm just saying, like, everybody's like, oh, just be peaceful. Oh, just be peaceful. Oh, just be peaceful. If you're not considered like a chosen worthy group, like the white women the predominantly white women who marched in the women's marches, and yes, I know they weren't all white women. I was at a sister march. I've covered the sister marches. I've spoken favorably about them and criticized them both. But that was one thing. Oh, yes. And we didn't have any issues, and we were nonviolent, and the police didn't bother us. They were so nice.
Here's a cookie.
You don't understand the issue.
Yeah. Go ahead. So the point I'm just trying to make is simply that, like, people are acting as though the respectability of a protest is determined by the tactics that the protest engages in, when really it's determined by the cause and whether or not the mainstream establishment, politicians and media can co-opt that protest to benefit their cause, like they were able to do with the Women's March, or in a lot of those anti-establishment protests that took place after Trump. Where like, oh, these are anti-Trump protests. No, these are anti-establishment, anti-DNC, anti-Trump, everything that occurred. These are anti-structure status quo protests. Like it's not the respectability of a protest or any political action, whether it be a debate or a speech or a movement, is not determined by their language, their actions, etc. It is determined by what are they critiquing with this protest. What exactly are they? What exactly is this protest concerned with? If it's concerned with, economic equity, oh, then this is not respectable, no matter what the tactic is. They're blocking traffic. Yeah. Oops, it's a moving goalpost. Oh, they're blocking traffic. That's not peaceful. Like, oh, like someone threw a firecracker up, but like that's not peaceful. Like it's this moving goalpost. And frankly, it's always used as a post hoc justification for either ignoring the problem that already exists or a justification for the problem that already exists. And that's what people want to do. They want to say, okay, well, they want to pretend as though if the protest had been quote unquote peaceful in its tactics, whatever that means, that it would have accomplished something and not been ignored or met with violence. But we know, regardless of Black Bloc, we know that police infiltrate protests and instigate. We know that is a thing that happens, and that is a thing. That happened at NYU a few weeks ago with the McInnes thing, and Black Bloc was there, and one of their goals is to disrupt police instigation, because that's something they do. And so to pretend as though absent violent protesters, a protest would not get violent is it's ludicrous. And not only that, when like people come to peacefully protest, if they're not the right group, if they're not the Women's March, if they're not an establishment sanctioned protest, they're met with riot police regardless of what they do.
Okay, caller, sorry, you're finally here. What's your name, number, where you calling from, comment or question?
Not your number. We don't want your number.
Not your number. I'm sorry. I have
give that man.
Yeah, we can hear you. What's your name, comment, and or question?
This is Umar from Brooklyn.
Hey, Umar, what's going on?
I have two.
We're Brooklyn at.
First one, yes, you can politicize Punch a Nazi. You get a artist to do a Jack Kirby-esque picture of a Captain America-like figure, say progressive man, punching a Nazi, but have the swastika spell out alt-right and Breitbart or wherever they come from, and then put it on T-shirts and sell it and raise money for whatever progressive cause there is. That's number one. Number two, Nazis and KKK recruit by finding white people in desperate positions and giving somebody to blame. Well, we are in that exact, we're right there now. We can now recruit because everybody is feeling like, oh my God, so we can start going, hey, join the Progressive Army. We're the cause, because those people over there are to blame. And I'm like, that's a tactic that we got to start considering to take. Last comment was, doesn't it feel a little bit like, and this is conspiracy theory, Trump is being so ridiculous that you're focusing on the ridiculous, and then they're getting away with everything else behind? That's a conspiracy theory. I'm not sure if he's being paid by the Koch brothers or the Illuminati, but it just seems like, my goodness, Nordstroms? Really? And I know this is Trump, but sometimes it feels so dumb that everyone's focusing on the dumb while behind the scenes they're just doing the other stuff. That's it. But yes, politicize that punch and not see. Make t-shirts. See? Thank you.
So he was saying we should punch Nazis, and we should also sell merch related to it and profit off of it.
Got to crowdfund the movement. That's right. I mean, I love it. You got
Hey,
crowdfund
maybe
we
should make the subtitle of Progressive Army, like Progressive Army, #We Punch Nazis. We'll put that on a t-shirt.
I will say this though, and I mean, right-wing violence, right-wing terrorism, right-wing hate groups will always be treated better or more amiably by liberals, conservatives, the mainstream media, etc. Because right-wing violence is always pro-system. It's always pro-status quo. I mean, insofar that we've ever had an anti-establishment right-wing, with the Tea Party was as close as we got, and that was immediately co-opted.
Oh, McVeigh, and were you old enough for that? McVeigh. Yeah.
So I mean, these are outliers, right? But most right-wing violence is in response to what people perceive as the system changing and people who didn't traditionally have rights having more rights, whether it be Planned Parenthood bombings, bombing the black churches. Like right-wing terrorism is always, if not state sanctioned or state approved, or rather it's approved by state apathy, because the state recognizes that it's always violence that is being done to disapprove of changes being made to give changes being made to the status quo. It's always violence in the violence against progress. While left-wing violence, in the fact that the vast minority, is always amplified because it's always anti-establishment. It's always amplified by the establishment media, the establishment politicians, because it's always anti-establishment. Left-wing violence is never pro status quo. It's always I have a grievance with the lack of progress. I have a grievance with the lack of mobility socially. Yeah. And so it will always be demonized. It will always be demonized at a disproportionate rate by the state, because the state recognizes that it's basically an assault on the state. And and so just to finish up, to properly critique right-wing violence, whether it's MSNBC or Fox News or etc., you would have to critique the state itself. You can't critique right-wing terrorism without critiquing the rationale behind right-wing terrorism, and that's why they're so desperate to play them off as crazy or simply white supremacists. It's like, well, what is white supremacy? Like, what is he trying to protect as far as white supremacy in terms of like what that actually means structurally?
What America was before any other group got access to America. White Christian men. That's what white supremacy is maintaining and sustaining that system. So you're right. It's all about sustaining the status quo.
So we have one more caller that's been trying to get through all night, and then we just got some.
We have so many callers.
They love us. What can we say? Caller, what is your name, comment, and/or question?
Hi, this is Vita. Congratulations, Ben, and Anoa, and Brandon, and my other guy is Nick. Appreciate you and David for your show. I just want to piggyback on what Brandon was saying about the strategy that that the Democrats are not using. They know what happened, so why do they continue to act like they don't know? And then if they could use the media like they did before during the primaries and the election, how they had a hold on the media was their machine of communication. Why hadn't Schumer or Pelosi or any of them use the media in the same way to counteract, to put their story out, to continue on a continuous basis? It's act like they don't. It's like they don't want to be bothered. So once a person show you who they are, then you should believe them. We got to believe them. They have showed us receipt after receipt. They're not really going to fight for progressivism and issues. They're going to be milquetoast and just dragging on just dragging on. We have to figure out a different strategy and pick our battles, with the marches, the organization, white women going to vote up to Washington, D.C. to march against Trump. Why didn't you take that down there too? During that time, I forgot what was happening was another big issue that was going on down in the South. They should have took it down there where the masses of the people for something that's really, really heart-minded. They go for these issues about Trump, but then they don't even give you a flip side. Well, what is your policy that you guys going to do? Who's the policy makers? I still don't have an idea. Who's going to be sitting at the table? Who are the people that you're going to be putting in if you get a candidate in? Who are they going to have as a team to go in there and get the work done? I'm confused. I don't know. I keep going online and looking at their different sites and grassroots. I can't join them because I don't know. I don't believe that they who they are. I don't think they really, to me, for some of the things that I'm looking for, everything is like so inclusive. Certain things you cannot prescribe to. If you got, like I told Billy before, if I got my right leg is broken, I don't want to go in there for the doctor to fix my left leg. We have to look at the issues and the problems specifically for certain things. Everything can't always be inclusive because certain things have to be directed at certain things. And anytime you start talking about black issues, then everything, you're a racist. Oh, it's just, to me, it's just, I don't know. I thank you guys, and I love you guys, and you guys truly stay blessed, and Ben, be safe out there in that snow, and I really thank you for your show and the work that you guys do. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks so much, Vita. Take care. All right.
So yeah, absolutely. Inclusiveness does not always work. Is basically what Vita was trying to get down to. That inclusiveness does not always work, and issues need to be addressed, but they don't get the attention. Even it's basically lip service.
Absolutely.
And we were into that too much. Go ahead, Noah.
No, I would say absolutely. And let's be clear, like I think there's so much brain power being, and Brandon and I were gonna talk about this a little bit, and we end up talking about it quite a bit. Yeah, I love when the kids came up with Catch These Hands. I mean, shout out to the young folks. The young folks are coming up with some great sayings for us these days. But seriously though, all this hand wringing, and we need to make sure everyone, equal rights does not mean that we need to make sure that oppressors are protected under the law, right? Like, I mean, yes, everybody has the right to be protected, free speech, blah 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 blah. But that doesn't mean that needs to be like your banner to carry. We got to worry about that.
Why is it?
You at least help me get free. Like seriously, right? You're so woke, so progressive, so this. Let's get us free and stop worrying about are we hurting other people's feelings or not in the process? Are we keeping anyone, like, I don't know if anybody's been watching Madiba on BET, because now I don't boycott BET anymore. I realized if I'm still watching NBC after all the shit they pulled with Trump, I can get over BET. So anyway, but because This Is Us has been, I'll probably boycott NBC after this is off, but whatever, whole nother story. But no, seriously though, right? Like think about what it takes to liberate the people, what it takes to really lift up and change the course of the tide. It can't be hand holding and talking about respect, because Ben did a really great job last night of running down what actually happened with Senator Warren and Rule 19 and all that other stuff, and this forced fake decorum in the Senate, right? And this attempt to kind of keep the peace BS. And we got to stop that across the board. So I'm not saying that we start running up in people's events and doing something to them, but at the same time, we cannot tolerate a new wave of hate speech, of actual violence, of people being outed and putting their information out there. That shit can't be tolerated under any level at all.
What's amazing to me?
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry. The same people talking about, oh my God, it's wrong to protest Milo when he wants to out undocumented students on campus, right? When the same people are out there tonight, right now, crying about ICE raids. Okay, so this is exactly this is violence. Like, these things are working in tandem together. So we can't pretend like, blah, 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 blah. Richard Spencer, when Richard Spencer's preaching violence against Black children and Black people and stuff like that, his president, whose ear these people have is out there signing executive orders is going to continue to target my son, Ben's son when he get, you know what I'm saying? Like we got to put this in perspective, people.
But it just makes me wonder about this. Makes me wonder when people are simultaneously saying we can't normalize Trump, but we should normalize Nazism. We should have discussions with Nazis and have discussions with alt-right. All this makes me think is that these people don't like Trump because he speaks very, and his rhetoric is very clumsy. His implementation is he's rude, and that makes me worried because that means that a lot of these people who are out there, a lot of these liberals who are out there fighting Trump are only fighting him because he doesn't speak as well as Richard Spencer speaks, and so they don't find his ideas inherently distasteful because the structural causes that led up to Trump have been being set for decades, and they didn't find it distasteful then. What they simply find distasteful is that he's rude, and that the ideas are now have the face of, or rather, the ideas are now reflected overtly in the way they've always been reflected in. And so they would be more comfortable if it was Richard Spencer espousing the idea, doing the exact same thing. And
what's
so,
up?
Go ahead. Sorry,
I was gonna say what I want to say is like it's very telling that the crown jewel of acceptance and inclusiveness and tolerance for liberals is to have the ability to let a Nazi have a platform and speak without you punching them. Like if that's your crown jewel example of inclusiveness, then you are, but you're by definition setting up marginalized groups to be destroyed.
But when we talk, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's pretty much it. It's like their hope and their dream of a tolerant society is to allow people like Richard Spencer to be able to get out there and speak and say whatever he want to speak without having fear of retribution from marginalized people against whom he would commit atrocious violence. Go ahead.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you bring up a good point. We need to really have a very frank discussion in the aftermath of the election, considering the voices that we heard on the left, considering who was out there shilling for Hillary Clinton and why they were so wrong. We do need to have a very in-depth conversation about why are these people being given platforms. And I'm going to shout someone out tonight because Jamel Bowie. It's like Jamel Bowie needs to have a sit-down conversation with Jamel Bowie about, hey, why are you
one of those dark Kermit?
Yeah, wait, one of those dark because I think a lot of these people out there, whether they be Richard Spencer or Mila, and it's not to compare their ideas or the veracity of the ideas or even like the acceptance of the ideas, but I think a lot of people who go out there and have these big audiences where they or have their voices elevated, believe it's because what they're saying is unique and good and well thought out, and it's representative. In the case of Jamel Bowie, representative of an entire community of people, right? And I think that they need to have one of those dark Kermit moments and go, hey, maybe my voice is being elevated because either it affirms the status quo or because it doesn't really challenge it at all.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that that's Jamel Bowie's thing, right? He thinks that because he's black and because he's giving the quote unquote black
I'm laughing at how quick David got that picture up.
And because he's going out there and giving the black perspective.
He looks like a young Armstrong Williams.
He does actually, but this is a conversation we need to have with all of our oppressed class spokespeople. They need to have with themselves, right? They have this moment with themselves.
That's what it looks like.
Is my voice being elevated because I'm critiquing the system to the best of my ability, or is my voice being elevated because I'm putting a black face or a female?
But why would you critique the system when you can make $250,000 a year? I
think they've convinced themselves that they are speaking the black case. At least
they are. They're speaking the black case. They're not speaking the black working class, the black poor, or even the black struggling, allegedly middle class case.
Exactly. But they don't recognize that their voice, as the voice of black people, denies the plurality of blackness. What they think is that they think that they're able to, with their single voice, give voice to the voiceless. But no, actually, what they're doing is they're co-opting other people's stories. Their story by nature of their class and their sexuality or whatever intersection they exist within. So got my prepositions mixed up. critiques the system the least, and that's why their voice is being elevated. And what they
No, man, you don't have to cut off every time I open my mouth. I like
it's your show. It's the Ben Dixon Show.
I do like the difference.
But the Brandon Dixon Show.
Hey, Brandon, all right. The only thing I would say different than what you're saying with regard to them, it's not that they don't know that these people exist. It's not that they are trying to co-opt their stories, but they actually, if you ask them, if you get
but they believe.
If you get into a conversation with people like Jamel Bowie, they have the same condescending gaze towards the working class black community as wealthy white people have towards white working class. And then they buy into this meritocracy. They look at them and say, oh, you didn't work hard enough. You didn't go to the right school. And so instead of having that conversation, they just act like they don't exist, and then have this ability to try to speak on behalf of everyone, but just let's ignore all those dredges of society, society in the black community.
Liberals practice the 2 P's of politics: pander and patronize.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like that. Like that's the thing. And my only point is, my larger point was this. It's like and I go back to my earlier point. Like these minority or oppressed faces within the democratic community at the highest levels simply give the illusion of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no diversity. There is no intersectionality there. Like what it is, it's like I said, it's the exact opposite of intersectionality. It's entirely homogenous in terms of wealth, with just different faces. But by nature of the fact that it's not homogenized by color, they think that they're doing something better. They think that they're doing better about it. And that makes them a little bit more difficult to deal with.
And they're soft as I'm sorry, I got people in the room. They are so cornball soft and cowardly. I remember the only interaction I ever had with Jamel Bowie was some milk toast exchange. And next thing I know, I'm blocked by so many black liberals. It's hilarious. I'm like, I thought y'all were like, black. I thought you had some thick skin. I thought you had some melanin in your skin. You should have some endurance, some resistance. And they are all just like, they're so coddled in their ivory towers that they can't handle being approached by the riffraff.
They can't deal with counter narratives. They can't deal with an argument between two black. They can't deal with an argument between
stupid Twitter and the automatic videos. I'm scrolling down and there's someone's live streaming one of the ICE anti-protests.
But we saw that they can't deal with a narrative that disrupts their bubble. And we saw it with Nancy Pelosi when she was asked in a room full of liberals, "Hey, maybe liberalism is wrong." She froze. She was like, I've never, because she's probably never heard that out loud. She's probably never actually.
Then they're not prepared. They're 100% not prepared to lead the resistance, and they need to step aside.
Because they can never actually resist the structural qualities of Trump. They can only resist Trump, but they can only offer like 2 steps back off the edge. And how much of that is intentional? How much of that is them thinking that they know better? How much of that is them like I don't know, and I guess it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter.
I think they don't care. I think they're enjoying their checks and they know exactly what the hell they're doing, because the way of the world now, social media, they hear these counter narratives whether they want to hear them or not. Mm-hmm. They're thrown in their face, and they would rather pretend as if they don't know, so that they don't ever have to put their income at risk. Because once you get over a certain income bracket and you get that lifestyle, you can't afford to lose your MSNBC job, Joy and Reed. So you become the better man. I'm sorry.
Join in on the fun, Ben. We all do it. We all throw our shots. Like someday we'll actually have to deal with it. For all the stuff. Whatever, account for it, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing though. When you build your own thing, you don't care who's gonna fire us.
But part of why, just to give everybody a little context, part of the reason why we're talking about Jamel Bowie in particular is Jamel Bowie had an exchange. I forget the other with a white reporter who wrote a series. Yeah, he was talking about basically the fact that where people are being short-sighted, that because black working class people want the same thing that white working class people do, jobs. Black working class people have been severely impacted by the closing of factories, et cetera, loss of, high paying union type jobs, things of that nature. And then he was also saying that there, from his experiences, from people he had been talking to, that there is actually more of a sentiment of people who are open to the possibility of Trump, and that Trump could possibly pick up votes, right, in this voting block going into 2020, if he were to run for re-election. And so, Jamel Bowie goes into this whole launches in this whole race. You know what you're talking about, white boy. Ooh, look at you. Your your journalistic voyeurism, your voyeuristic journalism. You went and talked to some black people, but there was a really good piece that he did a year or two ago about Selma. And how, we think about Selma, we think about the movie, we think about, the civil rights movement and the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And, that's where John Lewis became an icon. But one of the things they're talking about how it's 80% black. Selma's 80% black. It has such a high unemployment rate. All types of stuff. And underdeveloped, it's just so much going on detrimentally there. And we see this in a lot of places, right? And still we will have the good blacks, the good Negroes who read like Jamel Bowie making this race case without looking at the undergird of the economic structure that doesn't run across. We've seen this happen to communities from parts of Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland. We've seen this all the way across through Milwaukee and stuff like that. But these people aren't taking the time to actually talk to folks, to the brother on the block. Like I admit that when Craig went to the barbershop, was going to the barbershop during the primaries and stuff, and he was like, he'd hear me talking Bernie. He's like, people are not talking about Bernie. They're not talking about Hillary Clinton. When I go to the barbershop, people are actually talking about Donald Trump. And I was floored. Floored. He's such a joker.
I mean, let's with that. Why would Jamel Bowie Why would Jamel Bowie ever ask a black person what they think? Jamel Bowie's black, so he can tell you what a black person thinks, and that's the problem right there. And let me let's parse this out too. The liberal, the Democrats. Let's parse this out. Unpack this. I actually hate that word, but let's unpack this. Right, the part of the Democrat strategy, they deny the multiplicity of the working class. There is no black working class according to Democrats. Right. If you listen to their language, the working class is entirely staffed by vaguely racist white males who have everything in life going for them, and if they're complaining, it's because they don't like women, they don't like black people, and this denial that there is a black working class, and if there is a black working class, that they have any issues beyond the fact that they are black is troubling, because the Democrats are operating under stereotypes, and the reason they operate under that stereotype of the working class is because it's politically expedient for them. It's like the white working class, or the white rural southerner, as your atypical racist, that's your stereotypical racist, is how the Democrats disguise their own racism. It's like they have made the Democrats, as part of their larger political strategy, have made racism and sexism, phobia, and anti-immigration, all these things, they have made them intrinsic qualities of certain populations, and they have homogenized those populations to deny the fact that the Democratic Party are some of the biggest causes in the past 30 years of the structural and social realities that have contributed to our race, all of these problems. So what they do is they say, hey, that they do. Racism is something that occurs in the South and doesn't occur in New York City. Racism is something that occurs in West Virginia, and West Virginia might as well entirely be slack-jawed yokels. They don't have any real problems, and that's why you can have President Obama get on stage and not on stage, but can have President Obama congratulate Michael Bloomberg for his work in New York City while stop and frisk went on. And people don't think that, hey, isn't that supporting a racist regime in New York City? Because there is no racism in New York City.
That's why Hillary Clinton could have Michael Bloomberg on stage during the DNC endorsing her, and right on the same night as the mothers of the movement, right? And so, nobody blinks.
When we talk about tactics of the resistance, right? One of the tactics of the resistance has got to be that we have to wrestle back the ability to define racism, leftism, progressivism. We cannot allow the Democrats, and especially not the establishment liberal Democrats, the domination of these terms, because they misuse them. And when it just so happens, crazy coincidence, that just you're a Democrat. Just putting the D after your name, that easy D. Is that what that stands for? I don't know. Just putting the D after your name. It gives you this veil of righteousness, this shroud of righteousness.
Only you can never actually be, with one exception. Only if you don't pose a threat. Well, no. If you don't pose a threat to the agenda of the establishment Democrats, because as soon as you turn the corner and pose a threat to the establishment, then you are the racist. You are the real racist. Ask Bernie Sanders.
Oh yeah, basically, Democrats have said that the quality of being a Democrat, that you can't be racist or you can't be any kind of oppressor at all. Like we're all allies and we're all oppressed classes, and they are unequipped to deal with the America, because the Democratic Party is a circle jerk.
I'll tell you, our audience is engaged. We still have over 50 people watching on YouTube. So I don't know if you guys want to ride with me as I play some clips or not, or if you want to.
Well, I was going to ask you. I see you prepping all the clips over there. How long are the clips? Because normally my segments are like 10, 15 minutes.
Most of them are between 2 and 5. There's the only long one is that 18-minute angry food stamp caller from back in the day in the Orange Room that I was going to save for the very end.
Yeah, well, we can play that. Just play the 2-minute one real quick so we don't lose momentum.
I got you. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go over to this. So this clip coming up is of the end of Ben's interview with Thom Hartman, and he's basically commenting on why.
You say Tom?
No, Thom.
Thom. Yeah. It's not pronounced as Tom. It's
not Thom.
Okay. It's spelled weird.
Sorry,
Tom. Apparently, I was messing up Senator Brown's name like when we were talking the other night too. So.
Anyway, it's been a long day. I was snowed in, and I didn't get sleepy anyway. So, sorry, Tom. But this is Ben basically talking about why he does the show. Hold on one second, and let's pull this up.
I honestly don't even remember this clip.
Well, now you'll hear it.
The role that we have as media voices, it can be extremely influential. And just so, as we get ready to wrap this up, just some closing thoughts in terms of that role and what you see. What's the need? Where should we be going as progressive voices to help solve some of the problems we've talked about this morning?
I think the principal job that I see for myself, frankly, and for progressive media as a whole, is to inform, educate, activate, to give people a public square where they can hold conversation, to provoke conversation, discussion, and hopefully change. It's like, keep doing what you're doing. That's my message, and it's
absolutely,
and you don't have to be. I mean, you don't have to be a union member to promote unions.
Right.
I'm not black, but I support Black Lives Matter.
Right.
I'm not a woman, but I support women's rights. I mean, it's this idea of we're waiting for the perfect. So in fact, in our conversation here, we've gone from people complaining that they're waiting for the perfect politician to now people complaining that they're waiting for the perfect talk show host. It's like, get off your butt and get out there and get active.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because actually, and I'll let you get the last word on everything today. But it's funny because I remember why I started this. I remember why I started my show because of Ferguson and the fact that I physically couldn't go there. I couldn't go there and be a part of it as much as I wanted to. And actually, this goes all the way back to 2010. I physically could not go to Occupy Wall Street because of family. And because if I left home and didn't work, I couldn't, if, my wife would leave me and I'd have nothing. And so I had a conversation with some friends. I'm like, what can we do right from where we are to affect change? Because all of us want to be there, but most of us can't be there. And from that conversation, particularly after Ferguson, came the Benjamin Dixon Show, because it became my way of contributing to this national conversation, even though I couldn't physically be in places. So I really appreciate the sentiment that you're sharing this.
Yeah, we all have our own unique. Huh. Well, all right. There you go. That's why I started the show. Cool.
So Ben, what I guess one question I'd ask you is, what has it been compared to your expectations?
Say that one more time. What
have the last 2 years looked like compared to your expectations of what it would be?
I mean, I knew I was a shit, but no, I'm joking. No. It really has just been it's just been pleasing to see your efforts rewarded, even in the most modest way. And really, everything I'm saying right now is really speaking to the future. But just to see the community that we built, right? More than anything else, like, none of us are making a lot of money doing this. None of us are able to leave our full-time jobs, but we built a community, and our voices are amplified far beyond what we our revenue says it should be, right? We're quite literally in national conversation. We're able to say something and have it reverberate on a national level, and that's really been rewarding. I did not think it would happen that quickly, because the first year, bruh, let me tell you, the first year was like watching if I had 10 people show up to a live show, I was like, oh man, we doing it, and it was very quiet. It was very lonely, but I just kept talking about what I talked about, and then it just started opening up. So we had to be consistent, and that's one thing I was always good at. Once I put my mind to something, I lock in, sink my teeth into it, and then it just start paying off. So I don't know if I had expectations other than to get some stuff off my chest, but I love where it's led. So, how long is this clip?
This one is 2 minutes. It's one of your compilations, and you go in on this one. You literally say I'm going in.
All right, I gotta let unless if everybody else got something to say, I guess you can let it rip.
I'll play this one, and then I think this one might spur some comments.
Yeah, I remember this one well.
I'm going in, buckle up. Listen, the modern Republican Party is not the party of Christian values, because they are morally bankrupt and they are completely antithetical to the spirit of Christ. The modern Republican Party is not the party of Lincoln, because they are currently the party of the Confederate flag waving South, against which Lincoln waged civil war. The modern Republican Party is not the same party that voted for the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1964 and 1965, because they are currently the party that is opposing the reinstatement of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Don't make the Republican Party to be something that they are not. They are not the party that Dr. King was affiliated with, because riddle me this: what party do you think the Klan voted for in 2008 and 2012? I'm going in. The modern Republican Party is not the party of fiscal conservatism, because every time they run the government into a ditch from which progressives have to pull the nation out of. I'm going in. The modern Republican Party is not the patriotic party, because they send our troops off to war, but as soon as they get back home, they are abandoned. The modern Republican Party is about one thing and one thing only, and that is conservatism. Do not mistake conservatism with conservative values, because they have none. Do not mistake conservatism with fiscal conservatism, because that they are not. The modern Republican Party is about conserving the status quo. They want to maintain the power structure that has traditionally benefited white Christian men, and that is everything that you need to know about the modern Republican Party. And if the Democratic Party does not get their act together and start being proud to be progressive and start being proud to be a liberal, then we're going to rain fire down on them, just like we're going to do the Republican Party. I'm done.
Until that moment, that's in the orange room days, man. used to get lit back here in the orange room, man. I had maybe a couple shots of Cavazzi, and we go in.
Which we need each other. Wow. That I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people.
Oh yeah, I forgot I used to end the show every day with James Ball. Wow.
Ben, you were laughing. Why were you laughing?
I was laughing, man, because boy, man, you could 100% tell I used to be a preacher on that one, boy. You could tell I was much closer to the pulpit in that one than I am now. So that's all.
My mic was off. I saw Anoa raising her eyebrows at some of the parts.
No. It's just been going. Easy. I mean, I just was like, and it was like, I'm going in. It's like, yes, you are.
Oh no, you definitely gotta say that kind of stuff because that's their.
Like this sucker's been served.
The political establishment are still messaging them, are still packing themselves like things haven't changed in 30 years, but the political climate of America is so different. The Republicans are not conservative; they're anti-statist, and the Democratic Party is conservative, and also anti-statist in some situations. And because there's nothing more anti-statist than neoliberalism and like fascism, that's incredibly anti-state things. But they've been allowed, even Clinton, they've been allowed to rebrand themselves. Like Clinton's an incrementalist. You know what they call incrementalism? They call it conservatism. And so, and America has kind of started defining conservative by whatever the Democratic. I'm sorry. We've essentialized, right? We have started defining conservatism by whatever the Republicans do, and we started defining progressivism or liberalism. What I guess liberalism, but we've started defining progressivism by what a Democratic Party does. And so, instead of having to come and meet those terms for what they actually mean on a global or even just literal. Or in a global way or in a literal way, they're allowed to basically they have a blank check for defining whatever these two things are. And really, if you look at the American political system on the end, like basically on a spectrum, it's far right to any other industrialized state. It's so far to the right. To the point where you try to explain to people who are not as mired in this as we are, like, hey, you know what? Bernie Sanders is a centrist. They go, what? You can be to the left of Bernie. It's like, of course you can be. He's not out there spouting. He's out there spouting prison abolition. He's barely in favor.
He is not nowhere close talking about nationalizing private
utilities.
property and the utilities and the private industry. Like he's so far from a communist. He's actually 100% centrist.
Even our token progressives like Elizabeth Warren are not that. She's a grandstander, but she's not even that progressive on most things.
Yeah,
it's like where was she on No Dapple?
She started out as a Republican, so she can't. I mean, unless she made a complete.
Here's a question I want to ask you guys to that point, David. Here's a question. This might take us off into a long conversation, but this is what I want to ask. I want to ask the audience. I want to ask you guys. What is your threshold? Let's say Cory Booker runs in 2020, and he actually and Donald Trump continues on the same exact path. I mean, ravaging the country the way he's doing. What's your threshold on neoliberalism and supporting it to getting rid of Trump?
None. You know why? Because that's what they're hoping for, right? It's like so I would be.
At the same time as before you finish that thought, at the same time they're hoping for that. The reality of it is Trump is thrashing the United States in every way he can, and it's only been 3 weeks in.
It's funny, right? So like, I was kind of ambivalent about Trump up until he got in, and like the past 3 weeks, it's like America in 2017. I tweeted this out earlier. America in 2017 is like a satirical piece criticizing American politics and society between the years of 2001 and 2016. Like, it's everything that's been going on for the past 16 years taken to its like extreme, like to the nth degree. Like, I mean, like, and this is where I have a problem with people who are trying to find, a basis in everything that Trump does with things that Obama did or Clinton did or George W. Bush. It's like, yes, there's a basis, but you are ignoring that he's taking it way far beyond where anyone thought it would ever go. And so, maybe we would eventually got there, but let's
he's accelerating it.
Yeah, he's not an anomaly, but he is extreme. Yeah. And I think that actually has to be made. But so
maybe Cory Booker is a bad example because I don't think I could even support Cory Booker. What about Elizabeth Elizabeth Warren?
Well, that depends on how she acts over the next 4 years, right? That depends on how she what she does on this, because she's not very popular right now. Like she's like, people on the right don't like her and progressives don't like her because she's talking about how she was silenced by Mitch McConnell, but she's silenced herself
right now because you know what? Once they put that race spin on it, and it was silencing Coretta Scott King, and the Republicans are racist. There are progressives pushing that bullshit there. They are progressive. I'm telling you, they're Reverend Dr. Barber, however you say his, whichever way you do his titles, wrote a piece in the Nation all about how this is prime systemic racism because of Ms. Warren's silencing. And again, if you guys go back and watch last night's episode, that Ben really laid it out. He went through the video and showed step by step. It was the first time they stopped her. She was quoting Ted Kennedy. She was giving her remarks. She was quoting Ted Kennedy. Then the next time it was a woman from like up Massachusetts or something
Maura
like that.
Healey from Massachusetts, yeah.
Specifically on the issue of women's health issues. And then the third time when she finally gets told to sit down was the Coretta Scott King letter. But they have been telling her. Now, again, whether or not it's right for this way to be set out or whatever, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it also this is similar to like in court cases in criminal law, you cannot impugn. You cannot bring up character evidence, not in character information, not in evidence. It has to already be brought up by that person. So you can like impeach a witness on character evidence, but you can't just automatically assault their character just in general. It has to be very, very specific. But I think in this case, the stuff she was trying to report was very specific. But at this time, you could tell the Republicans were just tired. They're like, look, y'all want to do all this grandstanding, you want to hold your conferences, stuff like that. We got the votes. We don't need this, but you're going to do it anyway. But this she resisted stuff. There are people who are among because they're afraid. Because here's the thing: like liberals, progressives are being afraid of being racist.
Well, here's the thing.
Wait, Brandon. I wanted to just
go ahead.
Say two things. First of all, and I can't put myself on screen. I just don't have the setup right now. But with people latching on to the racist factor and being big fans of Warren all of a sudden again, I think that's what a large portion of people. I wouldn't even say that they're diehard progressives or diehard anything. It's just it's just like they latch onto whatever's hip or cool at the moment.
Right.
It's a large sector of our society, of our population that just latch onto it in the moment. Like unfortunately with No Dapple, with anything else, they latch onto these little things that are big in the moment and then it drifts away and it's gone. So I think that's one aspect of it. But the other thing, and then I'll hand it to Brandon, and then actually this next clip really attacks Democrats. But the other thing right now with Democrats is that I think they fucked up and they don't realize it yet. But they really have, and if they have, they're trying to play it off and trying to ignore it. But this is a problem you can't ignore. Yes, they may win the presidency in 2020 if they're lucky. They'll have better odds after Trump really fucks up in 2024. But winning the presidency is not going to solve problems. Right now, as someone in New York, I don't have someone to really vote for on the congressional level. I have no person that I'm really interested in voting for on the Democratic ticket. So they're not going to be an option to me. I'm gonna vote third party, and it's not going to be someone that wins because no one's truly viable right now. So when it comes to the larger picture outside of just the Oval Office, because the Oval Office is not the end-all be-all, it doesn't do everything that we need. They've screwed up and they don't have a long game.
So here's the thing. Here's what I was going to say. I don't want to get too deep into Elizabeth Warren right now, but I would disagree. I think that like people who are truly progressive, people who are really mired in this sort of thing, like I think there's a little bit of love lost between progressive and Elizabeth Warren that she's been trying to get back over the past. After in the wake of the primary, and I think that a lot of progressives have become hip to the fact that she is a grandstander. A lot of progressives have become hip to the fact that she doesn't actually, Consumer Protection Bureau is great, but apart from that sort of stuff, her main shtick is getting in front of a hearing, and wagging her finger at people like a disappointed school teacher, but nothing ever changes. And and like that she's not there on other key progressive issues. She's very much a grandstander. She's very much a barker but not a biter, and okay, whatever. But it's like she's just not there for the totality of progressive causes. And when she had the chance to actually speak out for not just speak out against Trump, but to speak out against the things that led to Trump, she chose to remain silent for political expediency. And so I don't think she's doing that well with progressives as she thinks she, or not. And I think she knows that she messed up, and I think she's trying to get that stuff back. But what I will say is this: answer Ben's original question. The reason why I am not a lot of bit hard on the Democratic Party, because I will never forget that this outcome, this Trump outcome, was preferable to them. Right? This was a preferable outcome to them over Bernie Sanders, because they understood that what it meant that 2020 could mean, okay, well, if we lose in 2016 to neo-fascist, whatever, that's not going to really destabilize the internal power dynamics of the Democratic Party to the degree that losing the primary to a socialist would. Because that would be until we can't come back from. Because it's like people pointed out, no state that has ever gone to universal health care has ever come back. No state that gets something socialist ever gives it back up willingly. And let's not get into the nuance of that. But the problem is, so I'm very critical of who I would vote for in them, because this was part of their plan. I feel like this is all part of their plan, because this was a preferable outcome. Like, they wanted to raise the Pied Piper candidates. We saw that. They put them up, because they thought it'd make her easier to push through. It didn't. She still lost. And now they are relying on the fact that, hey, Trump is so bad that the Democrats will vote for anybody. And like they will just vote for anybody. And so I refuse to go along with their plans. I refuse, and so I guess I'm being contrary for the sake of being contrary. But like, I recognize that this whole Cory Booker thing, or Kirsten Gillibrand is another one, let's be honest, is like it falls in step with what we know to be true about them and their plan. Because let's to finish up,
I think maybe I need to flip the question on its head and let you finish up. Flip the question on what does Trump have to do for you to fold up shop and just be like, hell, or give me whoever they give me? Because the reason I'm asking that is because we are in La La Land here. We're in Oz. We're not in Kansas anymore. We're in a weird place where he's doing some stuff that even surprised me, and I have a hell of an imagination. So I'm curious, what could he do for you to Photoshop and just like give me Cory Booker?
Here's the thing, right? So like the Democratic Party, and this is something I always critiqued about them. I'll say this way. I'll preempt with your answer question. I think it's a false choice, right? And not for the reason that a lot of people felt that the choice between Clinton and Trump was a false choice. But here's what to put forth, like, so people can visualize this. Here's what the Democrats want for America. They want America perched on the precipice of neoliberalism, dangling over the cliff of dangling over the pit of neo-fascism eternally. They don't want to correct the structural causes of racism or sexism or xenophobia. They don't want to correct the material and social realities that lead people to turn to racism, sexism, xenophobia. All they want to do is keep America perched on that cliff face and just dangling above neo-fascism.
I'm going to push you a little harder, Brandon. I'm going to push you a little harder. Just cause. Why the hell not? It's 11 o'clock at night.
10:45.
That's because it's all academic right now. But once he gets a single more appointment on the Supreme Court, he could overturn Roe v. Wade, and that doesn't put any sense of urgency for you to say, okay, I'll just go with Elizabeth Warren.
And here's what I'd say to that: Roe v. Wade has been turned back since it was passed. They've been turning back Roe v. Wade since the day after it was passed. Same with the Voting Rights Act. They've been scaling it back, and that's the problem, because the Democrats don't want to actually.
Okay, let's go one step, because they've been chipping away and chipping away at the New Deal.
It's a cycle.
But there's a difference between chipping away and now it's illegal in the land, across the land, unless you're individual state. So I mean, so it sounds like to me that there's nothing that Trump could do. What about Trump taking us to like literal war with Iran?
No, I would. No, here's the thing. I would always vote for the lesser evil, right? But my point is this: it's a false choice, because within this structure, Trump is an inevitability, because we always get back there. We simply, like, unless you correct the causes, like in the underlying structural inequality.
What about camps? What about actual internment camps?
I said already that I would vote. I'm just messing with you. No. I'm saying that for where we are right now, I would, of course, if given the choice between Cory Booker and Trump, vote for Cory Booker. But my larger point is this: within that structure, what we would simply have is 5 Cory Bookers in a row, then Trump again. 5 Cory Bookers in a row, and then Trump again. And what the Democrats are not going to do in any real way is measurably scale back on neoliberalism so that we never get Trump again. What they will do is they will accept the fact that we will exist within this cycle where, hey, every 4 presidents, every 2 presidents, every 1 president, every other president, we get Trump, and people start begging for the yoke of neoliberalism to escape neo-fascism. And so my point, as part of this resistance, while we still have time before 2020, we need to make it very clear that there is no answer in the Democratic Party to Trump as it exists under Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. All there is the promise that you can avoid Trump for 4 more years. Then that promise becomes untenable because you can't avoid him forever. You eventually have to start tackling the problems that lead us to Trump, and they don't want to do that.
Ben, before you go in there,
I want to let me finish it with this thought because it's real. So I see Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker. I see them as that we should be opposing, and there we need to push. Like I said I forgot what night, the Overton window should completely exclude Trump and the alt-right and Nazis. They need to be devastated and destroyed, and so that the only conversation and the only debate that's left in America is between the Cory Booker right and the progressive left, because that's the only real debate. Right. If you think about it, the only robust debate that we had in this election was between the differences between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. By the time we got to the insanity of Donald Trump, it was just so insane that it was untenable.
Well,
so,
the reason,
go ahead.
But the reason why the reason why we can't do that, right, is because, and we talked about this on Politics and Grits on Sunday, which you can catch on Sunday live from 10 to 12 Eastern, is that all across the world, all around the world, the neoliberals have taken over the left. And what they've done is they've silenced leftist populism.
But we've shaken that up this year, right? Bernie Sanders 100% shook that up, and it's up to us to finalize that.
And so that's my point, right? And so the point with that is that you can't exclude Trump and the alt-right from the Overton window if those who are in charge of the right do not treat the alt-right and the Trumps with the same amount of, I don't know what you call it, vehemence. They don't consider them non-starters because the right does not treat its base the same way the neoliberal left treats its base, and that's why we have the sister soldier moments. The neoliberal left is constantly demoralizing, beating down, telling the left that they're bad. And so,
but you missed a key point. A key point for you before you finish your analysis, because I see where you're going. But the key point is that the progressives no longer need to be the base for the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like we have to completely remove ourselves from them. And I don't want to call it third party. I don't care what you call it, but it needs to be a strong enough coalition to no longer be the base of the Democratic Party. Therefore, we don't have to wait for the Democrats to say whether or not our conversations can be inside of the Overton window. But part of what we have to do in that process is not only separate ourselves from the Democratic Party, but also do what we can to devastate the far right, which in so many ways should not be in the Overton window. Because as we talk about punching Nazis, because we don't want that inside of our national conversation and national discourse, we should also be talking about politically punching the far right outside of the Overton window. And the only way we can do that really is to both and. We have to separate ourselves from the Democratic Party and say what they don't want us to say. And so long as they have their thumbs on our back, we won't be able to say it.
I'm going to let Ben finish his own statement on that one in this clip, because that is a perfect segue, actually. I think Ben planned that, actually.
I didn't. I have no idea what this clip is, I swear.
This was a recent one, but this one pretty much goes there. It's time to divorce the Democrats.
That they want no parts of progressivism. They have made it clear that they would rather fight this fight without their base. They don't want us to speak up. They don't want us to participate. They want us gone. So why would we stay where we are not wanted? Quite frankly, you can have the Democratic Party. Take them and keep them. You can have Cory Booker. Please. We'll take Nina Turner. You can have Chuck Schumer. We'll take Keith Ellison. You can have Neera Tanden and the Center for American Progress, and we will take the Progressive Army. And when we think about it this way, when you put it this way, we quickly realize that the Democratic Party has been nothing but that self-centered, abusive spouse who wants us to feel so miserable about ourselves that we would be too afraid and too unsure of ourselves to ever realize that we have been doing them a favor by staying with a washed up former star. And once you realize this, it becomes so much easier for us to issue our Dear John letter to the establishment. So, dear Democrats, by the time you read these lines, we will be gone. Gone organizing a movement that you cannot control, that you cannot put in check, and most of all, you cannot silence.
The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Well, there you go.
We weren't at the end yet. So yeah, it was a perfect segue because it really has reached that point, at least in my mind. That night, I think you pretty much finally caught up with some of your most extreme viewers. There's other ones that are even more further left, but I feel like that night when you reached that point, it was like that really is where we've gotten to. It's kind of like there's no going back at this point. We can push the Democrats because those that are in power still need to be held to the fire. But we can't keep just blindly following along and going ahead with wherever they try to lead us.
Yeah, the only difficulty, it's time for us to do what we're doing now. And I think what we're doing now, I've not seen in the 16 years, 2017, so 17 years, 19 years that I've been voting. So 19 years that I've been participating in this political system, I've not seen an organized left that poses a potential, we're not there yet, but we pose a potential threat to the Democratic Party and the way the Democratic Party is set up, the way my bank account is set up, but the way the Democratic Party is set up, they are the Republican Party and they are our political rivals. But the difficulty that I see some progressives having is being able to multitask and to do both, and to fight to destroy Trump and his minions, as well as to fight to separate ourselves from the Democratic Party, so that real progressivism and leftist politics can be in the, because think about it, the only people who are outside the Overton window right now is us. Nazis are inside of the Overton window and we're not.
Because like I said earlier, the left is the far left are the only people who are trying to disrupt the status quo. Nazis aren't. I mean, the establishment, like fascism, or rather, capitalism is just fascism without the violence, right? That's the old saying. And so the people on the left want to disrupt the status quo. Insofar that, the goal is to work with the Democrats, not within them. Because
you took my. I was going to read his comment.
Wait, go ahead.
Yankee in the chat room said progressives can work with Democrats, but not within the Democratic Party.
Yes, that's my quote. He stole it from me from earlier. But the point is that like the price of admission and the demands of that structure are just too high, and we've seen that because you can't be a progressive within that party in any real way, because the thing that you have to say, the demands both ideologically and performative are like they're just antithetical to everything we believe in. Like you have to, you have to push their narratives. You have to, you can't say certain things. You have to accept corporate money from problematic corporations. Like not just. You got
to take Walmart money.
Yeah, and then not just Soros money. You got to take Walmart money. You have to take pharma money. You have to take you have to do these things, because if you don't, you're just not, you're not viable. You're not viable by their own criteria. Yeah. And we also have to break out of this, a lot of this, like you said, is breaking out this.
Anoa's getting tired.
I'm sorry,
getting sleepy.
No, that's not. I'm not getting sleepy. I'm just getting messages about people running in West Virginia against Manchin. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I was doing my recon.
I'll just make this last point, and I'll let Anoa jump in here. The point is that part of the barrier to a true progressive left and movement is we have to break out of this desire to be in either or politics, right? If you make a critique of one party, it says something else. Like this dichotomy that we have, this false dichotomy that we have between Democrats and Republicans. That like, oh, if you criticize Democrats, you're supporting Trump. If you don't criticize Trump, you're supporting Democrats. Whoever is anti-Trump is our friend, whether they be David Brock or Rahm Emanuel. It's just like no, we can do both. Like right, like that's the thing. Smart people can hold two ideas in their head, right? And but I mean again, but part of the Democrat strategy and also part of Republican strategy has to rather part of the Democratic political strategy has been to paint themselves as the anti-Republicans when really they are not that. And like the Democrats are not the opposite of Republicans. No. They are just one step to the left. And like we say like they're the other side of the coin. And like that's not the same thing as the opposite. That's the obverse, literally. But
one question as we go around again.
No more questions. No more questions.
Brandon's tired. He's been doing this for like 2.5 hours, or maybe three now. Yeah. So to close it out, I have 2 clips that I'll close after you guys go. But where do you see each of your focuses? Aside from the show, but what's happening going forward? And Noah, you didn't have a chance to really comment on this last pass, so you can add.
Well, no, I did I mute myself? No, I'm not muted. So I've been silent since Ben's room likes to compare Ben's viewers that complain that I don't know how to be quiet when other people are talking. So I've been the silent woman for the past hour. Oh no, it's not tonight, but it happens in the comments every once in a while. No. Seriously though. No, I was actually shopping for tires online because I had to. So I got distracted playing around trying to figure out where I'm getting tires at tomorrow because I'm driving to Birmingham on Saturday. There's a lot of activism. So where do I see things kind of my focus going? I mean, I'm trying to get this money so that I can quit the Fed job and do this shit full time because there's a whole lot of stuff going on that I'd love to bring you guys better content consistently. But there's a lot of actual organizing work that needs to happen on the ground. But I also got to pay my student loans and my kids like need to eat and stuff. So where do I see my personal focus? My personal focus is going to be trying to figure out a way, one, to not work 3 jobs anymore. But seriously though, in the grand scheme of things, I'm like continuing to do work to find and support good candidates that are going to run for office. And again, to continue to talk about state, local, right? State and local is absolutely important as we talk about, like we talked with, as I mentioned yesterday, we talked with the executive director of Alliance of Quality Education about how important, if we're really concerned about the education battle coming down the pipeline with Betsy DeVos, how important it is to really be involved with the local organizations, your local school district, your school board, et cetera, those people who already organize around these issues. Like I know David had mentioned that we've had people ask, like, they feel helpless, what can we do? And that's what my focus, I really want to focus on. How do we talk about meaningful acts of resistance, but not just resisting Trump, but meaningful ways to engage and actually, pushing and not just an incremental facet, the needle, so to speak, on what's been going on in many of our communities across the country. So that, and also just tightening up my game and building out and creating, good content for all of you. But really stepping up the activism, and now I'm managing the activism teenagers in my life too. I have my daughter who sent me text messages before I came on about the Russia decriminalizing sexual assault. She's livid. Sexual assault, something that thankfully Nayla has not experienced, but is very passionate about, which I learned last year. But she also has a friend who's 15 who wants to, and these are 15-year-olds I'm talking about here. So they're talking about how they want to help with a congressional race. They're asking me, how do they find a candidate to run for Congress? Because there's a congressional district over that they're really trying to find someone to run for, and they want to help with that campaign. These are 15-year-olds, mind you, right? Wow. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Like don't ignore the kids in your life, because like Max, more than likely, if he's feeling up to it, will drive with me to Birmingham for this training that we're going to learn more about how to interact with, local officials and engaging people in community organizing. For some reason, my 13-year-old finds that fascinating. Talk to your kids about what's going on. Don't, if I know a lot of us have apprehension and anxiety about what's going on. We may get on here and giggle and seem so confident, but trust and believe, we feel it too. Like I have it. I've talked about it before. I have anxiety. I used to have panic attacks really bad when I was in grad school when the kids were little. So I understand that things can be frustrating, and it can seem hopeless and impossible to overcome. But I hate to be cliche, but we shall overcome. We will work together. Our predecessors have survived really, really tough times and come out on top, and we can do the same. But what we can do is leave a lasting, measurable change behind for future generations. So how to make that tangible is my focus. And how to get out from underneath baby man, keep threatening people in their agencies is my other focus.
Cool.
So.
Brandon or Ben?
Well, what was the question?
Well, besides for trying to apply for your PhD and becoming the best rapper alive, what's going to be going on for the next couple of years? Where are you focused on aside from being a talking head?
Well, as people may or may not know, my PhD research is into local politics, specifically local local politics that revolve around education and education reform in this troubling time. Although that was my research focus before Betsy DeVos. That was my research focus when let's be honest, President Obama's Secretary of Education was privatizing everything, and Andrew Cuomo was privatizing everything. And Bill de Blasio is privatizing everything. So that's been my focus for a while now, and that's why I've been in tune with the fact that a lot of things have not changed. So I'll probably do that. I don't know. I'm young. My birthday's in like 14 days, and so I'll probably get a little drunk.
And maybe we'll drive down for the morning portion of your birthday, because I know you're gonna be ratchet as hell on the night portion.
I'm ratchet for life. I'm ratchet 24/7. I was just twerking before I got on.
That way you have the curtain, you have the VIP curtains right there behind you.
I twerk for my cat.
Is that the VIP room behind you?
My cat Hercules is making it rain.
Well,
it's like that song "Bad and Bougie." My cat makes it rain so much money. I use a rake to pick it up.
All right, but let me give you before we you pick up the money with the rake. I'll give you I answer the question. So I'm going to be honest with you. Besides actually trying to go back and finish my PhD, which I couldn't do while I was working 3 jobs, but now I don't work 3 jobs. I work 2. Maybe I have some time to actually go finish my PhD. I'm all but dissertation, but my real focus.
Me too.
Yeah, that's all I got to do, and I haven't had the time to do it. But my real focus is it's going to be this, and it's going to be creating these conversations on a national level and taking this platform bigger and further than where we are right now. We're talking with some folks, we're doing some things, and there's a lot of potential. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think what we are missing for the left, everyone has a role to play. And I think our role, at least my role and the Progressive Army role, is going to be the media platform for the left, where MSNBC is the neoliberal, damn near Republican, like straight out conservative almost, but they represent the Democratic Party in the media. There needs to be a louder left that has a media platform that rivals these other platforms. And even if it's only in the internet space, that's still something that we need. We need it beyond the Young Turks. The Turks have a great platform, but we need something further. We need better representation, better and diversity, not for the sake of diversity, but diversity for the sake of kicking ass on all levels. And so my focus is to broaden this. And so next year, this time, I'm hoping that this conversation that we're having, celebrating 3 years, would be in front of thousands versus in front of the few hundreds that we would have listening on the different platforms tonight. But also providing a platform for all the activists, the people that are the boots on the ground, the organizers, the candidates who are sacrificing their money and their lives to be out there. We want to create that platform so that they have a place to go even when they'll be shut out of mainstream media. So that's what I'm focused on. And somewhere between there and then I'll try to finish up this PhD.
Oh yeah. One more thing. I want to get a new computer so I can make a whole bunch of like sick sick memes using Photoshop. I'm really good at Photoshop. I don't have like the hardware for it right now, but I have so many memes that I'm gonna drop for you guys in the next few months.
Brandon wants to grow up to be a meme maker.
Oh, and you're gonna design our new swag, right? Darth Money.
No, I have someone up for that actually.
Oh, are you?
Yes,
that's
our
rap name, Darth Money.
Speaking of Darth Money, there was, anybody can comment on this before we close. Someone asked, they said, Samus said to get the Soros money. Someone asked if we're going to be bigger than Justice Democrats, and someone asked if we're going to be bigger than the Young Turks.
So Justice
we don't
Democrats,
do it big.
Justice Democrats is an organization that is running political candidates. That's not what we're doing. So that's we might support particular. Ben and I both have supported individual candidates personally or on our shows. We've interviewed tons of candidates, but we're not pretending like we're about to be out here raising money and running PACs. That's not what we're doing. And the Young Turks, monopolies aren't a good thing, right? Like you need competition. So
capitalism, baby. Capitalism.
I saw
capitalism suggests that they got to move over. We got to take some of their market
democratic socialism is still consistent with that theory as well. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So but I just a comment on that. I think the Young Turks are really losing touch with like the base and perspective. And I think just having grown up as little poor Black kids in America, that will always keep us grounded. Well, that and we both have families that remind us that we need to keep grounded. Brandon went to private school, so I don't know.
I can't speak for Brandon.
I didn't know what HOTEPS was until like a month ago.
I went to private school on a scholarship.
So you were the special little Negro that got out the hood.
I went to private school, dude. But no, seriously though.
I don't think I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've ever even stepped foot. I don't even know what a private school looks like on the inside.
It looks often like a college.
Right.
Yes.
So, anyway, but seriously though, like Jank, I just saw a clip of and I love Nomiki, no diss to her or anything, but I just saw a clip. I was sent the clip earlier this evening of an interview she did with the sister who is running for DNC chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, they were talking about a quote unquote gotcha moment that happened at one of the forums and how she refused to raise her hand that she would, challenge this one particular Dem donor, like major donor. And Jank and Anna were making this huge big deal about it because she's the only one that didn't raise her hand. But what I find fascinating is I don't give a fuck that she's the only one that didn't raise her hand. And I'm not standing for this woman or not. I don't really know much about her. And the rest of the interview with her that Nomiki did was like, I was kind of listening to her talk like, you clearly drank the Kool-Aid, sis. But at the same time,
Are you referring to the candidate or to
the candidate?
Okay, just one minute.
So she was. So I'm not really, commenting on the interviews for the most part, but there's this one part where they're asking her when Nomiki asked her about something that Jank and Anna had pointed out on the show about the candidate's failure to raise her hand. Like they made a huge deal out of this, right? But here's the thing: it doesn't matter that all those people on stage raised their hand that they would, stand up to this particular donor. Like Keith Ellison, and then the little young boy everybody's excited about are like the only ones that said they would ban the lobbyist money, like reinstate basically Obama's lobbyist ban, right? No one else has said that. So while we're sitting here giving people, props for raising their hand, all of them except for, this sister that they were talking to and the little young boy everybody's excited about, they were the only ones not at that super secret, private, high level function with David Brock. So I'm not going to sit here and ding someone who actually had the integrity to not attend a David Brock event because they didn't raise a damn hand. And I think things like that with the Young Turks, like Jordan, there's Jordan and stuff, and he does what he does, and that's really great. When you look at that main core like ideology that they're pushing out there, and I'm not going to sit here and shit on Justice Democrats, but at the same time, I'm not going to irrationally, diss people who are criticizing it if they're actually raising valid concerns. And I do think media groups, when you get to a certain level of power and access, when you're beginning to repeat what mainstream media has done, it's a problem. It really is. And it'll be interesting to see how the candidate selection process for them goes. I think as progressives, as leftists, as whatever we're calling ourselves these days, we need to be very careful about just jumping on these saviors, like, oh my God, yes, somebody's gonna do this. Like, we should be asking questions. We should be skeptical. And Kyle shoots off his damn mouth way too much on Twitter to be anybody that I can trust to actually run a local campaign. And it's my understanding that he's not actually directly involved in any of that stuff, but he needs to stop perping for the Twitters because my dude, seriously, Joe Manchin is a schmuck, but he would eat your little boo-boo New York ass up like that because he's a snake. And you need to stop running and pop out the mouth.
But see, that's that discrepancy, right? Like, you have this organization in Justice Democrats where the spokespeople are not really hands-on because they don't know how to be. And then you have spokespeople for a group that's ostensibly about organizing and running candidates who've never run or organized candidates. It's like they've never even stepped foot in West Virginia, and they're just as detached from West Virginia as. Were you just realizing a week ago that Joe Manchin is shit? Like, where you been at? His ass has been in the headlines the last 5 years for being like against Obama and going against the Dem grain and siding with Republicans. Like in November, he said he supported Jeff Sessions. Right. This is not new. Well, and I mean, it's that hubris again. It's just like, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. If you got, and this, I don't mean to throw shade on anybody. It's about being realistic, right? You have people who you have people by nature. You have people by nature of the fact that they are popular within certain circles. Would that be on leftist Twitter or on YouTube, and they have 3 million followers, or they have 450K followers, or they have all these followers, all these plays. They think that translates to votes and boots on the ground, and it does not. Like, how many of those followers actually live in West Virginia? Let me be perfectly honest with you. When it comes to actually running a candidate in West Virginia, 3 million followers on YouTube don't mean diddly squat.
That's Dre.
Doesn't mean.
Throwing shots. That's what we do because it's getting late. But no, seriously though, I don't think people understand what it takes to even run congressional, let alone elections. Right?
Sorry. Let me just finish
millions of dollars.
And you have people who don't even live in West Virginia calling for West Virginia, like Will Manchin, to be primary. It's just like, you don't even live there. Like, you don't understand the reality of West Virginia. One of my closest friends was born in he's a Democratic socialist, born, raised West Virginia in a coal mining town. And he's just like the realities of West Virginia in terms of what it looks like economically in some of these places, like, and socially, you wouldn't even believe it's in America. And like West Virginia is one of those places where, like, if you go to the wrong part of West Virginia, you'd be surprised you're in America. And so you're talking about primary Jeff Sessions. When I mean, honest with you, half the people who are asking for the primary Jeff Sessions couldn't tell you the capital of West Virginia.
Joe Manchin.
I'm sorry.
Charleston. I live there.
Yeah, sorry. Probably people calling it. Sorry. Most of the people who are calling for a primary of Joe Manchin could not tell you the capital of West Virginia. Have you ever been to West Virginia? Don't know anyone from West Virginia. Didn't know about Joe Manchin.
So here's where I come in this argument, right? I agree with both of your assessments 100%. And I don't disagree with you at all. However, I think that we have to
we do have to find
we have to find the place, and we have to pour in boots on the ground and actually and not the place. Everywhere we can. Everywhere. Well, let me finish thought. I'll throw it back to you.
Go ahead.
We to actually change the situation, to break away from Trump and to break away from the Democratic Party, we have to actually recreate the electorate. And I don't think they're thinking like that. They're not thinking on that level. We have to bring in people that have never voted.
We have to organize with people on the most basic level. We have to build relationships. Yes. It has to be house meetings. You have to build relationships, people, because you're absolutely right, Ben. We have to reach those people. Like, that was a big thing. People were like, well, Bernie brought in people, but just not enough people who either haven't really voted, have sat out the system. But we saw that, right? We saw that. There's a brother I think I want to try and bring on from Wisconsin. He does a radio show up in Milwaukee, Black News Radio show, and he has talked about, there's a really good clip, I'll find it and tweet it out tonight. He talks about why Black folks in Milwaukee, because that's another place where the Black vote was down. Why Black folks in Milwaukee didn't show up for Hillary Clinton. Bottom line, she didn't show up for them. I mean, and people didn't feel like it mattered because they're already going through so much Anyway, what does it matter? You got Sheriff Clark over there letting people die of dehydration and shit in his jails. And ain't nobody, Democrats, that's a Democratic stronghold. He's technically a Democrat. That's a Democratic stronghold, right? And we have Black folks who've been living, dying, and breathing, working and trying to work in Democratic strongholds all across the country. And Democrats do not show up unless they need our damn vote. And unfortunately, in this cycle, she didn't even do that.
She didn't even do that.
And this is not about identity politics or anything. This is just about the reality of the way people listen as people, right? You want to be engaged and talk to. And I mean, that's just human nature.
I don't follow. Let me drop this and ask you guys this, because I don't follow any of these organizations close enough. I actually trust, when you guys tell me about it, I take that in and I trust you guys as my source. But the reason I say it like that is because I don't have the impression from any organization that's out there right now, except for DSA, with the exception of they're afraid to go to the Black community. But with the DSA is out there making.
We need to have a conversation with them about that, man. Yeah. We need to get DSA information.
Who isn't afraid to go to the Black community?
I don't know why.
But out of all the other,
we nice. It's not like we violent or anything, unless you a Nazi.
I chill in those communities, or at least I used to when I lived in Jersey. So I mean, people are afraid.
David, you're hanging with us now.
People are afraid of stereotypes.
My point is, I don't know that any of them have even the idea or the wherewithal to actually change the electorate. I think they're trying to be the new kids on the block that are going to do the same old style.
Well, that's my problem with all these Bernie folks, right? Like, God bless them. There's so many great and wonderful ideas, but so many, and some folks who came off the campaign kind of get it, and they understand that they really need to listen to grassroots, because here's the other thing. You cannot pop off the mouth and list a whole bunch of people you want a primary, because what's going to work in North Carolina, for example, right? Like, there are actually pieces now talking about how North Carolina could be a test for the midterms, considering even Republican outrage with the way Republican leadership has done things in the state. Like could that be a test to wake the sleeping giant or whatever? And can we take back, North Carolina, for example, as was done with the governorship? I think maybe the attorney general, I forget, there was a couple of offices that they took back, Democrats took back in North Carolina. But like, you gotta recognize that when you're talking about these different races, there are certain things that are across the board. You can train people and engage people, but you can't, someplace like West Virginia, you can't just deploy outsiders and think that shit's going to work. It's the same thing with the Black community. Like when I living and spending 7-8, I think it was like total of 8 years across my older life, living in Appalachia, it's so, some of the mindsets and some of the way people have their entrenched thinking culturally reminds me about growing up in Black communities. That's why I say, like, from the hood to the holler, we have a lot of commonality. And it's just that you can't just, as an outsider, you can't just go into someone's hood. You can't go in up in someone's, like, I would never go up in the holler, even though I lived there, without, someone saying it was okay for me to go there. So imagine you as an outsider, you don't even know the lay of the land, and it's a very rural state too, right? So you cannot just handpick people to go someplace and go do something. It has to be natural and organic. It has to rise up. And there are people on the ground. There are people organizing. There are great environmental groups and other stuff to pull from if folks just did a little research before popping out the mouth and asked a few questions of who to look for and talk to.
That's a great point, and that's where we can find parallels between the failings of these national groups, a lot of these national groups, and a lot of other outside groups, in between the establishment Democrats, insofar that they are very, very comfortable with dictating the solutions to these problems, people who are living it on the ground. It's like they have the same sort of savior complex that, hey, those of us who are outside of the West Virginia, those of us who are outside of that day-to-day lived experience, we know better about Joe Manchin. So we're going to come in there, we're going to tell you exactly how things are working in there and how we can fix your problems. Like, no. That's why the Democratic establishment failed, because Hillary Clinton wanted to come out there and tell you what your problem was, that everything was okay and that nothing's the matter. And no matter, these outside groups will go into West Virginia and they'll like come up with these solutions that they feel like will work for West Virginians, despite having never been there. And all they will be met with is just like, well, you don't know me.
Yeah,
you don't know what my life is like.
They actually might be met with a 9, man. They might be met with some shotgun.
Joe mentioned, Joe mentioned might be a snake, but he knows my lived experience. He can speak to lived experience. He can speak to my grievances, and you can't speak to my grievances. You can only tell me that the choices that I have made are wrong, and I should make better ones. That's why Trump won. That's why Trump won, and I hate to say it because he was able to speak to people's grievances in a way that the Clintons were not. The Clinton campaign was not, because they, out of one side of their mouth, they were trying to define what racism was for your everyday average Milwaukee poor working class black family. When that's not what racism to your everyday average Milwaukee, Wisconsin black family was not being called the N-word. It was, I can't feed my kids.
Yeah,
and Obama didn't do anything for that, and Clinton's not going to do anything for that. And but Trump, I mean, he says he might do something for that. He's not telling me that my life is okay, or that he's not telling me that my life is okay when I can look to the left and look to the right and see that it's not. And people don't understand being patronized and politically by someone who doesn't live where you live, or someone who and not having your problems, spoken to and legitimized by is the quickest way to turn people off. And that was my critique of Bernie Sanders. You can't tell people who feel like their problem is race that their problem is class without leading them from point A to point B, because all you're going to do is turn them off because you're basically telling them you don't know why, you don't know what your problems are. Here, I'll tell you. And a lot of people don't have that savior complex.
Well, that's a huge problem with these groups, and that was part of our struggle when we first were starting with BNC, was really trying to find the balance and the footing between staff and non-staff, in terms of the Bernie campaign, in terms of voices being heard. And I think that because of the different growing pains and stuff that have happened with that effort, I think that that's now starting to shape and hopefully will help with what's going on with Justice Dems. Like I said, I had my own interaction with their social media manager, awesome woman, because I mean, like I said, Kyle pops up at the mouth, and this is the problem when you have people who are figureheads and they're speaking on behalf of your organization, but they're not necessarily connected to the work specifically. And I know that we have a piece in our blog. We have 2 pieces actually, that are very favorable. And that just shows the veracity and the variety of opinions that we have at Progressive Army, right? We all share respectfully, but we also disagree. And I disagree with this notion that Justice Dems or any other, organizational effort cannot be criticized. Any such criticism or objection by progressives is somehow irrational. There is irrational criticism that happens. It happens to us. It happens, and it's not even criticism, right? It's just false outrage, and we need to call it what it is, and that's fine. But at the same time, I don't think we should be romanticizing valiant efforts just because somebody throws Bernie's name around in their mission statement or something like that.
And so here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. If you're advocating for Joe Manchin to be primaried, how about you go on Twitter, find someone who lives in West Virginia, and just ask them don't go on Twitter and find anybody who lives in West Virginia. No, I mean, that's what who is. No, my point was I would just rather find someone who who that's their lived experience and listen to them. That's one of the hardest part of our politics. It's this. You would think that these groups, particularly people who came out the campaign, would actually turn to the grassroots volunteers, even made Bernie's existence possible in many of these states. Campaign staff act as if they created some monstrous miracle vehicle themselves. Campaign staff did a beautiful job with, at times, poor direction, poor resource allocations. You know what I'm saying? It was not a perfect thing, kumbaya to be a part of, from what I've been told for various people, various staffers, right? But at the same time, grassroots efforts across the board, these different groups that came together, whether they were able to crowdfund and have their own office space, etc., they made a huge impact. They were the ones that were touching the voters. They know the different areas of these states to be talking to people. That is who these organizations, those are the first people you need to be connecting with. Because even if they're not still running right now, they probably still have email lists or something like that, a way of keeping in touch. These Facebook pages and stuff like that, these Facebook groups that people started and are run, some of them did transition over into trying to be statewide progressive organizations. Also, look at other candidates that maybe have tried to run before that have progressive leanings, right? Those people may not necessarily be the best people to support
but they will probably know maybe some tools, some tips, some tricks of the trade on the ground because they've tried to do it. My suggestion to Justice Dems and my suggestion to everyone I've talked to about this has been that someone you should talk to in West Virginia is Charlotte Pritt. Not because I'm not necessarily saying that we need to advocate or draft Charlotte to run for the U.S. Senate. I don't know if that's something that she's interested in doing. Charlotte Pritt, for those who are not aware, I did an interview with her on Election Day. She's really awesome. I really like her a lot. But she was the last person to actually beat Joe Manchin in a primary back in the late 90s. Joe Manchin is such a bitch baby. This is what I'm saying. Like his history runs so deep. He was so pissed that as a Democrat, he supported the Republican to defeat her because he was so mad.
You mean like something like Amy Siskin did? Yeah. You know,
he was Amy Siskin before Amy Siskin was Amy Siskin.
We've been on for 2.5 hours.
But I'm gonna we can close out. But what I'm gonna say though is, I
know Brandon ain't talking. He just got through all that talking.
I know, right? I was quiet for like 40 minutes though. Like
first of all, you tried to take me down a line of questioning that you thought would have me implicate myself by saying I would vote for Cory Booker. I was saying your ass.
But no, seriously, but I think we need to look at this in all these different states and stop looking to the traditional, I think we still forget, and no matter how righteous our cause, we are still fighting an uphill battle. We are still in an insurgency within the system. And we have the potential, we have the numbers, and we look at people who are dissatisfied with both parties, we can really do great things, but we have to be looking to the people on the ground who people have expertise and political know-how that is wonderful and awesome. But at the same time, people on the ground know their communities, they know their neighbors, they can talk to people that you can't. Like that's just real.
Well, guys, I've been putting it off. Right before the show, I was watching Travelers on Netflix. I want everyone to watch that. I watched it. I already finished it, but I started over.
Oh, did you rewatch? Are you rewatching it? I was about to rewatch things.
I'm about to rewatch the hell out of Travelers, and I want to thank you guys for hosting tonight and throwing this little mini party. Next year, this is also the anniversary of Progressive Army, right? ProgressiveArmy.com is a year old today. So next year it's just going to be one big party. All of us, this is our thing. We've been building it, and so looking forward to the future. And I'm getting ready to go watch Travelers. And so I guess I'm not in charge, but if everybody just get 5 seconds, not 20, not 30, not 45 minutes, and just say bye to the audience.
Bye, everybody. Go check me out on Spreaker. I'm on Spreaker now. Like Ben, I gotta get with David so we can start doing Spreaker Live for our shows too.
Simulcast.
But
all right.
Simulcast. There we go. Yeah. Look, see, Ben's still teaching. Look at that.
Go ahead, Brandon.
A year later.
My name's Brandon, and I'm just happy to be here.
And on that note, I'm gonna cut these guys out, let them go rest. I'm gonna play a clip, and we're done with the live footage for the night.
Good night.
Early on was this unfortunate intersection that Donald Trump was able to exploit in the Republican Party. In this next clip, I really unpacked this. I really laid out the case for Donald Trump being unstoppable. I was hoping, a couple of times I was really hoping that someone would be able to beat him, but we really pointed it out because of what the Republican Party has been doing over the last 40 years, created the perfect storm that would lead to someone like Donald Trump. Take a listen to this clip that I'll play for you. He's galvanizing the absolute worst in America in general, because it's not just, you don't find this level of bigotry only in Republican circles. You do find it in Democratic circles. However, it is prevalent in Republican circles, which is why Donald Trump is number one. Donald Trump is not number one because he has the establishment. Donald Trump is not number one because he has the evangelical base. Donald Trump is number one is because he's skimming from all of those groups and he has solidified the bigot base. Now, notwithstanding the fact that he's pulling out all of the crazies, all the racists, all the xenophobes, all the homophobes, all the very worst dredges of society, notwithstanding that fact, he's also doing something that this article in the New Yorker, and you'll see the description and the links that he pointed out. and you who are already here may need to refresh because that's the last thing I posted as the show was coming live. The article in the New Yorker is pointing out the fact that Donald Trump, because of the freedom of his money gives him, one, and because of his just natural bombastic attitude, Donald Trump is able to expose to America how imbecilic and childish and very simpleton our political process has been and our political candidates have been. Particularly in this season, Donald Trump has been able to expose the weakness of every single candidate, and not a single candidate has been able to stop him. Now, with that comes all of the baggage that is Donald Trump. The vulgarity, the racism, the misogyny, just glaring, all these negative facets. And so you have this person who is rather disgusting, drumming up a very disgusting base, number one contender in the Republican primaries, yet he is exposing all of the worst things about our political process. And for that, I think this entire summer of Trump going into the fall of Trump has been worthwhile, because we are getting a chance to see exactly who is beholden to who. And you have a candidate who has no problem calling out every single person that took money from him, every person that's taken money from the Koch brothers, every person who has been beholden because of that money, all of these people who are weak and spineless. The Jeb Bush has no backbone and no, just nothing there. The article really goes into the fact that Jeb's really sad campaign slogan is his name with the exclamation point. But when Donald Trump got done with them, it was a semicolon. So the article is a great read. You should read it. But I really want to dig into this concept that a person like Donald Trump is capable of actually being good for America, not in the Oval Office, but simply by running and exposing the very worst inside of the Republican Party in terms of the racist base, and then the very worst in the establishment party. And the other thing that he's exposing is that the Democratic Party is not really an outsider. The Democratic Party is the establishment. That's something that he's exposing to the benefit of America in general, because we like to think that Democrats are the populists. Democrats are the ones that are so in favor of the middle class, which, in holistically they may be. But Donald Trump is exposing the fact that he is an outsider, and the Republican base has rallied behind an outsider, yet the polls are not demonstrating that of the Democratic progressive base. Let me separate that sentence, because that's two totally different groups. The polls are not demonstrating that the Democratic base is rallying behind an outsider. Instead, it is rallying behind one of the most establishment candidates that we have ever had, which is Hillary Clinton. So Donald Trump is exposing all of these things, and he's not intending to. It's like a person who makes something good happen, and their intention was not to do something good, right? Him being as imbecilic as he is accidentally exposing the fact that American politics is ridiculous. The machine is ridiculous. The amount of money that's involved, and the amount that each candidate has been purchased, and they're not able to speak exactly how they would want to speak freely. He's exposing that all of our candidates are essentially Manchurian candidates, because they have been programmed by the people they have to go to get support from. Now, all of that said, all of those things which are really good for the American democracy in general, you still have to look at the fact of who his number one supporters are. His number one supporters are the most xenophobic, racist, homophobic, ridiculous, asinine people that we have seen in public in a very long time. The only person who we see in public on a regular basis that represents Donald Trump's base is Ann Coulter. That's the type of person that Donald Trump invites and attracts to his campaign. And I just think that somewhere between the damage that he's doing by giving voice to all of these people who really need to be relegated to the dredges of our society, and between the good thing that he is doing by exposing how ridiculous our politicians are and how ridiculous our political process is, somewhere in between there, we're going to have to find a path that says we understand how ridiculous our politicians are and we demand a better politician, but at the same time, we will not do it on the backs of these bigots, these homophobes, these xenophobes, these Islamophobes, and these racists that are making up the vast majority of Donald Trump's support base. So the question is, can we get something good out of this Donald Trump experience that he's taking all of America through and leave the baggage, the negative baggage behind? Here's the problem with that. Donald Trump is doing good. Donald Trump is performing better than anyone imagined. And it doesn't look like he's going anywhere. And no matter how many people, yes, yesterday Scott Walker dropped out. He dropped out on the underneath the premise that he wanted to make room for another conservative alternative to Donald Trump. The problem is Scott Walker did not have any real supporters. He was at, like, after the CNN poll, the ORC poll yesterday, he was at less than 1%, which means no matter how much he feels he was sacrificing one for the team, he did not have enough supporters to help anyone. And I guarantee you're going to see this effect. The more people drop out in order to oppose Trump, the more the base is going to be rallied behind Trump, because the base absolutely loathes and hates the GOP establishment. So they will see this. They will see this and they will think that, or they will be repulsed because it is a move by the establishment to overthrow their candidate of choice. That will backfire ultimately. That's not going to play well with the base. So Scott Walker's biblical sacrifice, because yesterday in his press conference, he gave his, he wrapped everything in the Bible, right? That's what GOP politicians do. He wrapped everything in the Bible. And so his biblical sacrifice will be in vain because the people who support Trump do not want an establishment candidate. And that is the problem that the GOP has not come to terms with. They have not come to terms with the fact that they have created a base that hates the establishment and loves this type of vitriol that Donald Trump gives them on a regular basis.
One more clip, folks. This one's a doozy. It's about 18 minutes long, but it is a classic, a call-in that Ben got back in the day. And he got into a really He got into a really lengthy debate with a call-in, and you'll see. If you haven't seen it, you'll enjoy it.
So this next clip is one of my favorites because I got a caller who called in and, came off as though he was reasonable at the beginning. But before the end of the call, he had devolved into shouting about some woman who was in front of him in the line using food stamps, and she was a black woman, and how he wanted to just go up and slap her. And so, of course, I had to give him a classic Benjamin Dixon slap down. So check out this clip, one of my favorite moments from the past year.
You've tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right, caller, what's your name and what is your comment or question?
Yeah, hey, this is Eric from Houston. I found you on Twitter in the Hillary Clinton thread, and I love your energy.
Thanks.
Yeah, hey, look, I agree with you on corporate subsidies, taxpayer subsidies to corporations needs to be abolished. But you know what? I'm working poor. Mm-hmm. I work 6 days a week, make about $35,000 a year. And it's not the corporate CEOs that I resent. Mm-hmm. It's not the big corporations or the big businesses that I resent. I resent the welfare mom. I resent these people on using EBT cards in the checkout line at the grocery stores.
Okay.
Here I am with my little cart, and I got to buy the generic bologna and cheap hot dogs and the macaroni and cheese every time when I go to the Kroger store. And the woman in front of me, and you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm not politically correct. 9 out of 10 times, it's a minority. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a black woman or a Hispanic woman. You know, the woman in front of me, she whips out a Lone Star card, and they gave it a nice name, Lone Star, so people will be fooled that it's not welfare, but it's welfare. And she's got steak and lobster in her carrito, in her cart, her shopping cart. And here I am with the cheap bologna. I'm working like 6 days a week. You know, it's not the corporate CEO that's in the checkout line in front of me that's got the steak and lobster that's stealing from me through taxation, that's stealing my money that I work very hard for. It's not him that's taken from me. It's the welfare moms. It's the woman that pops out 5 different kids with 5 different men that doesn't have a husband in the household. That's the person I resent. You know, woman, you know, go get a job. You know, stop stealing from me. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Appreciate your call. Hang on, I don't want you to go anywhere because I want to have a little dialogue with you about that, because you're exactly the type of person that I'm referring to, that you're angry. And I understand your anger. First of all, let me tell you why I identify with your anger, because I work 6 days a week, and at my hardest, I worked from 5 in the morning to midnight. Right now, we're from 5. Well, hell, I guess I still work from 5 in the morning. You know, with exception of the show, right? I don't really call this work because I love doing it, but I still get up at 5 in the morning, and I still get off at midnight, right? So when I leave here, you know, I go to work. You know, so I understand exactly what you feel when in terms of you work so hard, and then you got to get a bologna sandwich just to make it to the next paycheck. Right. So I'm with you on that sentiment. But do you realize that as a percentage of what you make, you are paying more out in tax subsidies to the wealthy than you would ever pay out to all of the social welfare people that you're upset with?
Okay, let me stop you right there. I don't view a tax break as a subsidy. I mean, this is where even straight like myself,
hang on a second.
Totally disagree with liberals.
Hang on, let me give you this. Let me give you this. Not only a tax break, but also straight out subsidies. I don't want you to get confused and stuck up on the tax break. It's tax breaks as well as subsidies that are straight cash payments to these corporations. So go for it.
Well, I'm against that. I'm with you on that. If my tax dollars are going to corporations, I guess like the export, you're talking about the Export-Import Bank, you know, where they fund overseas investments or big companies like Coca-Cola and stuff like that to promote their products overseas. Yes, I am absolutely with you on that. And if that's the case, if my money is going to fund that and it's a larger percentage, I am outraged just like you are about that.
So,
but you know what?
Okay, go ahead.
That's not what's in my face every day.
Right.
That's not what I see every day.
Right.
I see the woman at the Kroger store whipping out her Lone Star car, and I'm furious about it. I want to go up to her and slap her and say, "Woman, go get a job. Stop stealing my money."
Do you realize that most of those people do have jobs? You see, they painted. Hang on, hold on. I gave you a chance to talk, and I want you to hear me. They have painted a picture in your mind successfully over the last 30 years to make you believe that everybody that's on welfare is jobless and lazy. Do you realize that there are plenty of jobs both at Walmart?
I think they are. See,
that's a misconception. That's a misconception.
People, they do not want to work. You know why?
Hang on. I'll let you talk. So now let me talk, and then I'll give it back to you. That's a misconception. Yes, there are people who do not have work, right? That do not work. And actually, there's 2 things that I got to remind me to tell you about Owsley, Kentucky. But first of all, there are a amount of people who are not working, but there are far more people who are the working poor. You called yourself the working poor, but the working poor are people who are working 40 hours a week and cannot make enough money to buy food. And so what these corporations have done, and it is part of their policy, both places like Walmart and McDonald's, they would teach you how to go and get on welfare because your salary is not enough, even though you're working 40 hours a week. Now, that is not something I'm making up or pulling out of the air. We are subsidizing these corporations, not only with straight cash payments, not only with tax breaks, but we're subsidizing them by having to pay welfare and pay safety nets because they're not paying their people enough money. So now they've made you upset, and they painted this picture in your mind that everybody who's on welfare.
Why?
Hold on. You're on my show, so let me finish my thought, and I would be glad to let you finish. All right. Everybody, they have a picture in your mind that everyone on welfare is not working, but it is demonstrated that the working poor are on welfare. They are receiving SNAP benefits. They are receiving food stamps because the jobs that they have do not pay enough money for them to pay for all of their expenses of living as well as get food. Now go for it.
Okay. My point is, why is it that they're having kids with all different husbands and the man is not in the household? I mean, that the man should be in the household working his butt off to pay for those kids. Instead, I'm paying for them.
You're paying for a fraction. I will chase that red herring a little bit because that is a common not even a misunderstanding. That's a common bit of propaganda that they feed you on a regular basis. First of all, I don't know if my producer is listening, I want you to pull up that stat for me of what we pay out based on welfare and subsidies to corporations, and send that to me so I can bring it up on the screen. But what you pay to these people is minuscule compared to what you're angry at them because you see them. You're angry at them because you've been told that's who you should be angry at. You're angry at them because you have been propagandized for years. But the truth of the matter is, that energy and that anger that you have, shouldn't that, and just answer me this, shouldn't that go to the people who are taking the lion's share of your taxes?
Okay, I will, but I want to ask you this question.
Wait, answer that. Answer that. Answer that for me real quick, and I'll let you have the floor.
72% of black households do not have a man in the household paying for the kids. Is that statistic true or not?
That is statistically misleading.
Thank you.
Misleading.
Thank you.
Hold on. We're chasing red herrings, so let's chase them. Do you know? Hang on, because you're doing what you're not going to do is just yell over me. All right? Are we going to have a conversation or not? Are we going to have a conversation or not? Are we going to have a conversation? You asked me a question. Can I answer it without you yelling over me?
Go ahead.
All right. 72% of people don't have, of black children don't have fathers in the household, but that does not mean that 72% are not being taken care of by their father. It has been statistically demonstrated by the most recent research by the Census Bureau that black fathers are far more active and participatory in their children's lives. So now, even though they don't live with their parents, that does not mean that their parents are not taking care of them. That statistic that you gave just shows how many people don't live with their fathers, but that does not mean that they're not active. It has been demonstrated. You can pick up a book called All In by Josh Leves. It is demonstrated in chapter 8 that black fathers are outperforming white fathers, Hispanic fathers, and every other type of father in terms of being participatory in their children's lives and taking care of their children. Now, that's not something I don't pull stats out of my ass. That's documented. So go grab that book, chapter 8. Matter of fact, you can pull up the New York Times article by Charles Blow and find and read that data for yourself. So let's throw that out the window, because it doesn't mean just because they're not living with their family that they're not being taken care of by their dad. All right.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
But you can't.
We're on two different planets. If they're not in the household, it doesn't mean jack as far as I'm concerned. They need to be married in the household with the kids 24 hours a day.
Okay, so since we're throwing around stats, do you realize that 50% of Christians, 50% of all these conservative people are now divorced? They are not taking care of their, I could say the same thing, that just because they're not living with them, that they're not taking care of their family. That doesn't make it true. So there is a marriage problem, if you want to say that, in the United States, but that's not endemic to a particular group or demographic. That is America. That is America. Now, do you know this stat? Do you know this stat? Hang on, I got to give you this stat. Do you know that the largest county, the largest percentage of welfare recipients is in Owsley, Kentucky, which is 95% white and 99% Republican? Did you know that that they are the ones? If you want to be mad at somebody, why aren't you mad at Owsley, Kentucky, which is 95% white? But in your mind, you're thinking of that black person or that Hispanic person that you saw in front of you at Kroger, when in reality, all of your money is being sucked into this red state.
Okay, so a white person mimicking black culture is supposed to make it good?
Mimicking? So now you're saying I'm gonna laugh at that. You know why? You know why I'm gonna laugh at that?
To get to get blacks, get them off of the Republican Party to move them in the Democratic Party. And then decades later, white people start mimicking, seeing blacks getting on welfare, not having to work. And you think that's good?
My friend, you are, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we're operating at two totally different frequencies, because what I just gave you, I gave you a statistic based on the poverty level in Kentucky, that they are overwhelmingly voting with the Republican Party, and they are overwhelmingly so impoverished that they consume the greatest amount of your tax dollars with regard to the SNAP program. It's being absorbed into this one white county in the United States of America. And you decide to say that is them acting like they're black. You know, you started this conversation like you were intelligent, but now I'm starting to question the validity of that premise that you started off with.
They're mimicking black culture.
How are they mimicking black culture? By taking welfare? So welfare, are you not? Because now this is, hang on, hold on. You called the Benjamin Dixon Show. What you're not going to do is run off and spout lies and ridiculousness. You answer me the question, and I'll let you have the last word. Are you saying that poverty and welfare is black culture, and that is what Owsley, Kentucky is mimicking? And I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I guess I can talk now. Look,
yeah, you have my permission. Go for it.
Who in their right mind, if they're working poor, go to the grocery store and sees black people and Hispanic people with these little cards, I don't know what it's called in Kentucky, and they get free food? Who in their right mind is going to say, you know, why am I dumb? Why am I going to slob into work every day, 6 days a week? Why can't I just get one of these cards too and get my steak and lobster? You know, it wasn't like that in the 1960s. Lyndon Johnson specifically wanted to get blacks off the Republican Party, voting Democrat. Blacks used to vote Republican. So he instituted welfare, and then decades later, of course, white people are going to start mimicking black culture. And here's my final thing I'm going to say. They should be shamed. I would go to that county as a white person, and I would go to that county in Kentucky, and I know Kentucky. I'd go there and say, what in the world is wrong with you? And I do it in my personal life. If I see a white person taking out a Lone Star card here in Texas, I will yell and scream at them. Don't shame yourself. Have some faith in yourself. Work hard. Do not take welfare. That is stealing from other people.
Let me ask you one simple question, and then we'll move on, because I don't think we're going to agree, but that's fine. That's life. Let's say your hours got cut back. Instead of working 60 hours a week, now your corporation, because they're going to have, for whatever reason, they're going to cut you down to $35 hours a week, just enough to be full time. What would you have to do to take care of your family?
I'd go down to the local pawn shop, plop down $50 and get a rusty old lawnmower. I'd go to the Office Depot with $5 in my hand. I'd get some flyers printed up, and I'd walk my neighborhood, and I'd have more work than I could handle within 2 hours. Let me tell you something. There's a black guy in my neighborhood. He's maybe in his 40s, little guy. He is the most wonderful person I've ever met in my life. This guy, he's got his own lawnmower service. He busts his butt for 6 days a week, sweating in the 95-degree heat. He doesn't bother anybody. He supports himself. He never asks for anything. His name's Johnny. I love this guy. Why can't more black people be hardworking and entrepreneurial like this guy?
I'm not going to chase that red herring. I'm going to follow up with the next logical step in that. If Johnny's already doing it and Johnny is capitalizing and getting all the business, what business is going to be left for you? You're assuming that you can go out and just get up all this business, but everybody is out there doing it. If everyone is out there doing it and you're not by yourself, your company laid off and cut hours for 500 people, and can everybody go out there and cut grass? There are going to be some people. There are going to be some people. If everybody is doing it, I forgot your name at the top of it, but Johnny, you mentioned Johnny. If everybody is doing it, how are you going to be able to compete with everyone else that is out there? I tell you what, this is what you do. You put that theory into action. And actually, better than that, I want you to go and I want you to look at the number of people who are working poor, legitimately working poor, who are working 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week, but are only making $10 an hour. And so they have been taught by their corporations to go and get welfare. So you're mad You're mad at the wrong people. You're mad at the wrong people because you see a Hispanic or a black person in front of you and you say, oh, that's because they're lazy. You don't even know if they have a job. You don't even know if they're working. They could be working just as hard as you. They could be just working twice as hard as you, but not making as much as you make per hour. And so they have conditioned you so much so that now all you see is the 5 cents on the dollar that you give to food stamps, but you pay no attention. None of that visceral anger that you have, none of it is directed to like 30 cents on the dollar. Now I'm throwing out these numbers because I don't have the stats in front of you, but it is that dramatic of a difference. You're angry with the person who's taking 5 cents out of your dollar versus the people who are taking 30 cents out, and you think they're eating steaks and lobsters? They're riding in their yachts. They're living in their skyscrapers. They're eating the caviar. So you're mad because a working poor person is getting a lobster, right? Which whatever. I don't even like lobster like that. So I'm not defending their right to eat lobster. What I'm saying is your anger is misplaced. Your anger is so misplaced, and you are the exact product. You are the exact product of what I was talking about, of 30 years of propaganda, and you feel like all you have to do is go and get a lawnmower and go and cut grass. But you already said Johnny is capitalizing on it. So what are you going to do? What you're most likely going to do when the rubber meets the road and you cannot feed your family anymore, you will be in the working poor legitimately, and you will go out and get food stamps to feed your kids. And then I'm going to walk up in line behind you and say, why the hell won't you get a job, you lazy ass bastard?
That's all, folks. We're going to go with the closing, the familiar music. We'll see you back here on Monday. Or you can tune into Spreaker on Sunday, and we'll have Politics and Grits. Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Have a good weekend, guys.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.